Hi, this is Karen Allen from Animal House and Raiders of the Lost Ark, and you're listening to the Claus Corner.
Welcome to the latest episode of the Claus Corner. My next guest is an actress of both stage and screen. Her films include Black Christmas, Curtains, Strange Brew, Dreamhouse, Priscilla, Thanksgiving, and many more. Her television movies include Every Person is Guilty, for which she earned a Genie Award nomination for Outstanding Performance by an Actress, Taming of the Shrew, Harlan County War, Jewel, Bugs, and many more. Her television series work includes Drop-In, The Littlest Hobo, I'll Take Manhattan, War of the Worlds, Picket Fences, NYPD Blue, Storm of the Century, Wind at My Back, and once again, you guessed it, many more. Her theater work includes Romeo and Juliet, The Tempest, Boeing, The Dresser, Over the Tavern, The Voice of the Prairie, and wow, I can't believe it, many more. We are now celebrating the 50th anniversary of Black Christmas. So from Shakespeare to Scream Queen, please welcome the extremely talented, as well as the extremely versatile, as you can see, Lynne Griffin to the Claus Corner. Lynne, how the hell are you?
I am well. I'm gobsmacked at how many things I've done over the years when I'm still so young.
Yes, exactly. I mean, all before the age of 25. I don't know how you did it.
Phew. Wow. She was a keener. What a, boy, people really hated her for that.
And you know what's funny is that's the Reader's Digest abridged version. There's so much more. So I had to keep adding many more. I was doing my research, like, oh my God, I could do probably a 3-day interview and still not get everything in. And I have to say,
I'm still going. It's not, it has not ended yet. I mean, the best I feel almost is yet to come.
I agree with that. Because I mean, the stuff you're doing, I've seen some of the more recent work and I love it. And I have to say how I got in touch with you originally. Well, I met you at Chiller, but I interviewed Leslie Donaldson several years ago. And the first thing she said, she goes, you have to have Lynne Griffin on your show. She is the best. I met you at Chiller in October. And within 2 seconds, I said, Leslie, you're 1,000% correct. Lynne, is great. You and your husband are hilarious. You're so welcoming. You're so funny. And you have obviously you heard from the intro, we have so much to talk about.
Yeah. And thank you, Leslie, for, dropping my name into your ear.
Yep. So I do want to take the time out to dedicate this episode to the great Olivia Hussey, because you worked with her. And I know she passed away recently, and we're going to talk about that. But she was such a great actress. And I know you worked with her, obviously, in Black Christmas, but also Shakespeare. You learned a lot about Shakespeare with her, through her.
Right.
Yeah.
And I've just actually been rewatching the Zeffirelli Romeo and Juliet. And I mean, I've gotten now as far as the balcony scene. And I was too choked up to keep going. So I'll watch the rest of it, even though I know, the first half of the movie is glorious and then it gets sad. Yeah. But her work in it. And also, I must say, I was at a live screening of Black Christmas this past Christmas, and watching that again, I'm overwhelmed at how wonderful an actress she was. Mm-hmm. Some of her work in Black Christmas, I think, is astonishing, really, truly astonishing. She plays fear so brilliantly well. But the thing about her Romeo and Juliet, when you watch it again, she has this delightful little giggle that she does during the balcony scene, which is it's just so refreshing. It's really, truly, between her and Leonard Whiting, I think one of the best interpretations of that particular Shakespeare play.
Yeah, I gotta check that out. Is that found on YouTube?
What, Romeo and Juliet?
The one that she's in, the one you're talking about. Can I find?
Yeah. It's a Zeffirelli film. It's like it's so famous and popular. Yeah. You'll be able to find it somewhere.
Yeah, no, I know of it. I just, I never actually.
It's just beautiful. Yeah. I think it's probably, in my opinion, the best version of that play and I've done the play 4 times playing the nurse.
Yeah.
So I mean, to be able to watch it again and still see it with fresh eyes when I literally can recite everybody's lines in that play by now, is really quite astonishing. And I can't tell you how saddened I was at her passing.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know anything about. I know we're going to talk about that because you did a couple fan films, and part two she had to drop out, and I wasn't sure what was going
Yes.
on with that. But we'll get into that. And then when I
Okay.
saw the news, I said, "Oh my God," because
Yeah.
she was such a
Yeah.
great actress and was such a tragic loss. And speaking of tragic, one of the reasons you and I have been going back and forth trying to get this interview going, the last time we had to postpone was because the fires in
Yeah.
California. Is everybody okay?
Everybody is okay in terms of my immediate little circle.
Yeah.
Um, because my friend who had once lived in the Pacific Palisades, okay, that's gone. But she had since then moved out and gotten divorced and moved, and so she was actually more in Santa Monica, and the other
Oh,
one was near the Altadena fires, but she was more in South Pasadena, so it never got to her. Of course, now I mean they're still saying they're ongoing, and they're likely to hit uh possibly further south, like San Diego way, which is where Sean's whole family is.
oh man. I'm sorry
So
to
we
hear
keep,
that.
yeah, we keep a vigil on what's going on. But I mean, I guess that day, I kind of went, I don't know how we can talk about anything else, but
Mhm.
the fact that the Pacific Palisades and basically a lot of Altadena is just gone,
Yeah.
gone, which will mean too that I would think the film industry, such as it was in LA, still, chugging along, will be really, really suffering from this as well, because so many of those people were obviously in the business and in making movies.
Yeah. I didn't even think about that. And I want to talk about making movies because when I was speaking with Leslie a couple of years ago, she was saying back then a lot of filmmakers were filming in Canada, where you're from, because
Hmm.
of all the tax breaks. Is that still a thing?
It is, and you know why it is now is because of the exchange rate on the dollar,
Uh,
which is, for $75 of your US dollars, you're getting $100 worth here. So also what happened during that time was, I think we really built up the industry and we got terrific crews. And because we worked so diligently through the pandemic with all the restrictions and whatever, we still managed to chug along. But now I think people will come up here. I mean, as much as I hate not to be sort of, I don't even know what that word is, that you kind of go, oh well, goody for me. Now it means more films will come up to Canada to shoot because they can't shoot in LA.
yeah,
That's a nasty thought, and I will go to hell for that. But it is true, with that and the
yeah,
difference in the dollar. I mean,
yeah,
that's why we like going down to the States to work, because we're making American dollars. I mean, it's crazy. And I don't think it will ever change or ever kind of equal out. It
yeah,
doesn't seem to. And, who knows what's going to happen now. We may be,
yeah.
I know, quite honestly, I'll state quite frankly and, absolutely, completely, it will never happen that Canada will become part of the United States.
You don't want to be part of the United States, especially right now.
I think we have enough influence. We're influenced enough as it is, and
Yeah,
I don't think we can ever give up our sovereignty, if that's what it is, sovereignship. I
yep.
mean, more likely, he, if anything, I think we join Great Britain. Um,
Yeah.
but I can't see North America being just one big, I don't know, what would that be? It would just be North and South America, or North
Yeah,
everything America. No, it
yeah.
won't. It
It's not
won't
gonna.
happen. Anyway, not in our lifetime, so we're safe.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. I want to go back. Speaking of Lifetime, I want to go back to Lynne Griffin, the early years. Let's start at the beginning. You came from a family that was somewhat in the business. Your mother was an actress. Your father actually was a photographer, and in 1966 he won Canadian Photographer of the Year. Congratulations on that.
That's true. That's very true. And he won 300 mint actual silver dollars, which were actually made of silver back then, that I
Wow.
still have buried up in my closet somewhere. I don't know what I'm going to do with them. Maybe I'll eventually cash them in and make my own movies.
Wow.
I don't know. Yes, he did. Yeah,
So,
that's
well, I
true.
like that little DIY. Do it yourself, then you have
Yeah,
total
yeah,
control. You
yeah.
don't have to worry
Well,
about
I have
anything.
300 Canadian silver dollars
Well,
from 1966, whatever they're worth now.
I can only imagine. So, at such a young age, especially being your mother being the actress, did she encourage you to be an actress as well?
She did. I think, I mean, because I have an older sister, my sister Kathy, also, I think she wanted us both to kind of at least, you know, try it if we liked it. I must admit, my sister didn't really want to do it. I can, and in fact, my sister is now the agent.
Yeah.
My mother, who was an actress, then became a talent agent, and
Yeah.
when she passed away, she gave the talent agency to my sister, who now runs it and represents me and Sean. So life is good; it continues. But I think. I mean, she was never like a stage mother. I mean, I started very, very young because my dad was a photographer. He took pictures of me everywhere and anywhere, and also used me in a lot of his, because he was sort of he was high fashion but also commercial photographer, so he used me in a lot of his work. And I'm actually was on the cover of my grade 4 speller, which was actually pretty terrifying, just because then everybody was putting on mustaches and devil horns on the cover of their speller, because it was me. But yeah, I mean, I started very, very, I mean, I don't think there was another path I could have taken. Although I will say, if my father hadn't died when I was 12, 13, I was so interested in photography, I think I might have pursued that. But both avenues were open to me, either, to pursue acting. I mean, I did one of my first plays with my mom.
Yeah, Boeing,
Um,
Boeing.
Boeing. That's right. I had no idea what I was doing. I was playing the French airline hostess. I had no idea what I was doing.
Yeah, from what I read, wasn't it a sex farce, and you had no
It's a
idea?
sex farce, and I was like, what? I don't know,
I love it.
15. I don't know. Yeah, and my mom said happily, you should, I'm going to do this play. You should do it with me. Come on, let's go off to do this play together. See, so I mean, she was definitely encouraging
Yeah.
and maybe even enabling. But
You
it
were-
was great, great fun. And, from then on, I never looked back. I just wanted to keep doing it. And I did a lot of modeling for my dad and different people, commercial modeling when I was a child. And also I did a lot of television commercials.
Mhm. Yeah. So that's where, yeah, because let's talk about that. From what I read, or maybe I saw in an interview, your mother encouraged you to act because you were so shy at the time. She was trying to get you out of your shell.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true.
And
Yeah.
and
So
go ahead.
she would take me to auditions, just mainly to get me to bring out. I don't think she ever, because I know initially I was probably too shy to talk.
Mhm.
And then she tells me that one time I talked so much, and I had a little hat on, and my hat flew off, and they thought I was adorable. Anyway, I guess I got my first commercial by just really sort of breaking breaking that ice that I had about meeting people. And yeah, I don't really know that what took over in me to go, wait a minute, I like this. But one of the first commercials I did for Five Roses flour. So I was put in a harness, and the whole idea was the flour made you lighter than air. So
Mhm.
I got to fly up in the air, and I went, okay, this is a heck of a lot better than grade school.
That's funny. Well, it's funny. You and I have that in common. I don't know why, but up until about ninth or 10th grade, I was extremely shy. I remember the guidance counselor was speaking to me. He goes, "Why don't you like to talk to the kids?" I have no idea why. And then 12th grade or 11th grade, something just snapped to me. Then
Yeah,
I was the lead singer in bands. I did radio. I did stand-up comedy. I did motivational speaking. I wrote a book. Now I'm
yeah,
doing a radio show, and there's so many other things in between that. So I don't know. Just like you, something just snapped to me, and I'm so glad it did because I'm having the best time.
yeah. And me too. Although I will say, I think there is a part of me that is still very shy.
Yeah.
Uh, and I guess, part of that is, if you're an actor, you're getting to put on another persona, another person's clothes, and that, so it's not really you. You have a bit of a shield that you can work behind, although I always feel that you're bringing your own personality
Yeah.
to those roles, however, disparate they may be from your own personality. But you have that sort of protection, or that almost what we call the fourth wall, right? That you go, it's not really me. It's somebody else that I'm playing.
Yeah. It's funny you say that because I've seen documentaries on Peter Sellers, and
Mm,
they said that he could never. One time somebody said, "Well, what do you want me to do?" He said, "Just be yourself." He goes, "I don't know how to do that."
yeah.
He was in character all the time because they said, "I really don't know who I am." That's what I know.
I,
I don't think you have that issue, but
I,
I know that for some actors like Peter Sellers,
but I used to say of myself that I knew who Lynne Griffin was,
yeah.
but I didn't know who I was. It's a very interesting disconnect.
Hmm. Well, whoever you are, I think you're great. I love you.
I think I found myself eventually.
Yeah, I think you did.
And all the censorship, everything went, by the wayside. Now I'm just open as can be, and I'll tell you anything practically.
Oh, this is going to be a fun interview, people. I can't wait. And, and just to give people, we talked about the talent agent. The name of the talent agency is KG Talent. It's run
That's
now by
correct.
your sister. And
Yes.
so she never ever wanted to get into the acting business, but your mother, when she became a talent, she started doing the KG. She goes, I'd rather be behind the scenes and help you out.
Yes, I think so. And she had a real good eye. I mean, they both have a real good eye for talent.
Yeah.
Um, I think my sister, in one audition when she was fairly, I mean, maybe not young, but maybe in her teens, was told by a casting agent that she had sibilant S's. You know what a sibilant S is? It's when you talk with a, like that, like it's just us, it's us. But I don't ever think she really did, but it
Yeah.
really did shut her down.
Uh,
Um, and so for the longest time, she was a production assistant. She worked for the Galloping Gourmet. She worked for TV Ontario, but she was basically a production assistant. And then when I guess when my dad passed away, and my mom decided that, to kind of keep a roof over our heads, she should start her own agency. I
mm,
mean, she was sort of encouraged by the agency that she worked for,
yeah.
but she started her own. And then very shortly after that, my sister decided to join her. So they worked together for many, many years. And then eventually my mother passed away, and my sister took it over altogether and has been running it very successfully since.
Who are some of the people that they represent, or not your
Well,
sister represent?
she discovered Chris Makepeace.
Ah, I love
Yeah,
my
I
bodyguard.
mean
I'm trying to
that's
get.
kind of,
Sorry to interrupt you.
there's all those Canadian Mike Myers,
Yep.
those kind of
Wow.
kids that came up through that, certainly were clients of my mother's to begin with. Um, and now, I mean, oh God, she has a lot of Canadian actors. I'm trying to think of the brothers now, that they've all got series now, which makes me crazy. Um, but like this whole family of kids got work and continue to work. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
and she represents a lot of, I mean, I think because she started by representing a lot of children, and those children grew up and managed to make the transition very brilliantly into adult actors. And I think that's one thing that she was very good at, as is like keeping them from going off the rails at,
Hmm.
a certain point, from child actor to teen actor to mature actor, that she kept them on track enough and kept them busy and working in the field, that they didn't stray and they didn't fall by the wayside, and they've had, very successful careers, a lot of them, and a lot of them, I say, are on television series as regular players.
Well, that was a great segue because I wanted to talk to you about that. And it's not, I mean, I could already see it. I don't know if it was an easy transition, but you going from child actress to teen
Yeah.
to adult. I mean, you see people like Kurt Russell, Ron Howard, Mickey Rooney. They did it, and they turned out great. Did you have any problems in going from child actor now being an adult actress?
No, I don't think so, but I think it's because I sort of started in, well, I started as a catalog model, but then I had already done television commercials. So then when I was, I guess, in my later teens, from, I don't know, maybe about 15, 17, I did a television series, which was live to television back then. We did, we didn't tape it. We actually went live, and it was called Drop In. And it was a kids television, like a magazine show, where you did live interviews with people, and you also did sketch comedy, and you did all kinds of things. So it was a real uh training ground. Even though I really wanted to go to like a theater school, a lot of people discouraged me because they said all these doors are open to you right now,
Hmm.
so why would you want to go away for 4 years to study when you might come back and find those doors closed to you then? So I just kind of kept going. And because I guess I transitioned then into doing theater, then I really like embraced being in front of a live audience, and really a lot of that, that fear and being shy just kind of fell away.
Yeah.
And then I literally went from doing some young stage work into getting some really wonderful film roles as a young woman, although they were primarily all rape victims. Most of my career as a young woman was playing a really good victim.
Yeah.
So my husband and I laugh because we make lists of how many different ways I've died on film.
How many ways do you have so far?
Oh, it's pretty up there. It's probably getting into the double digits for
Wow.
sure by now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've seen a couple of them, and you're really good at being the victim.
Yeah, and really, big, good, stupendous deaths that last over, decades, that people care about.
Before we get into the first death that I want to talk about,
Yes.
what was it like for you being in school? Were the kids supportive of you, or were they jealous? Like, oh my God, Lynne Griffin's a star. Oh, she's too good for us. How'd the kids handle you being the star?
That they didn't.
Yeah.
They didn't handle it very well. I
Nah.
think a lot of people, well, especially the young women, they can be so cruel. They would say, like, I'm prettier than you are. I'm smarter than you are. Like, why are you getting all this? So
Yeah.
most of my high school work I did by correspondence because I was doing series at the time. So I would do my work at home, and I would write out my exams and my essays and whatever, and submit them. So I didn't spend a whole lot of time actually in class with them, which obviously is gonna, make them suspicious of me anyway.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
and then it was like, I think, the only thing I remember going to was maybe a prom. I
Yeah.
mean, and feeling very like strange about being there with all these people that I really didn't know. I'm not one of those people who says, "Oh, I go to all my high school reunions and stuff because I remember all my high school friends so much." I went, "No, they didn't want they didn't want to have anything to do with me." Although sometimes now I'll find someone from those days will end up coming to a play that I'm in,
Yeah.
and will come backstage and say, "Remember me?" And I'll go, "What?" What? now
I know.
now and of course they remember me. I go, "Of course you remember me. My name's in the program. You know who you're coming to see. I don't know who you are." But they'll say, "Oh, we went to high school together." Okay, I'm fine. I'll accept that. I like to meet everybody that's
Yeah.
ever been in my past, or ever shunned me or wronged
Yeah.
me. I'm fine now. I just like people,
Yeah. Well, I
and
think
I
it's
think it's
funny.
funny.
Yeah. Well, I think it's funny too. Is like when Facebook first came out, all these people after 20 something years, 30
Mhm.
said, Rich, so good to talk to you. It's like you didn't say a word to me in high school. All of a sudden now you're my best friend. Oh
Yeah.
my God, how have you been? You didn't care back then. You don't care now. So,
Yeah, I know. I
yep,
know.
that's
Well,
funny.
it's like too, when I moved to the United States, um it was funny because at first there were all these people who were never friends of mine in Canada
Mm.
who would want to do these sort of Canadian reunions, Canadian actors in LA. And I go, well, you never talked to me when we were all in Toronto, but now you're inviting me to your Hollywood Hills
Yep.
house
Yep.
to celebrate being Canadian. I thought that was kind of strange.
Yeah. Nope. Unfortunately, there's a lot of fake people out there, or maybe people who want to meet you now since you made it, you're a star, and they're like, "Oh,
Well, and
Lynn."
also, Facebook, as you say,
Yeah.
flung those doors wide
Oh
open.
yeah.
I mean, I don't think I would be known as sort of like Miss Horror Scream Queen victim person, whatever I am, except for Facebook. Once some of those films came out on DVD and Blu-ray and whatever, and sort of the connection was made by horror fans through Facebook, those doors were flung wide open for me. I made so many connections and friends and went to so many conventions and met so many people. It's been
Yeah.
pretty amazing.
Yeah. Well, I can honestly say I've only known you for 3 months, but I've loved you the whole time. There was
Well,
never a
that's
time where
funny.
I said, "Oh, I know I was never mean to you. I loved you right from the start."
But it's really funny when I go to conventions and people say, "Oh, you still look exactly the same." I go, "Come on, you're lying." But I mean, you're still you. And I fell in love with you when I first watched this movie. Blah blah blah. And I mean, it's so. Why wouldn't people want to do these actors do more
I
conventions?
know.
It's so good for your ego.
No, exactly. I remember I met George Hamilton in one of these, and it was funny because it was the first one he ever did, and he was talking and talking and talking to somebody. So he came over, he goes, "I want to apologize. I'm just having so much fun." I said, "George, take your time. I understand." And he goes, "I love these things. I can't believe I didn't do this
Yeah.
before. I'm having so much fun." And you
Yeah.
could tell.
Oh,
And
that's great.
Henry Winkler was
I'm
the
so
same way.
glad to hear that
Yeah.
because I know, and I've certainly been with some actors who, boy, if even if you're working with them and they get asked for an autograph, they're just like they hate it so much.
Yep.
They hate that part of it. And you go, well, you chose a profession that sort of made you recognizable and public, so you kind of have to accept that as part of the game. This is part of the whole
Yeah.
process of being an actor. I mean, everybody wants you to promote your work, so you
Exactly.
can't just kind of act in a bubble and then go home and say, I don't want to deal with the public.
Yeah. I can honestly say if I made it big, I would be the most appreciative star. I would talk to everybody because I know the people that came to see me, maybe like I'm tired or in a bad mood, but I am making their day, and that impression they get of me is going to be the impression they have of me forever. So if I'm in a bad mood or just feeling low, they're like, "Oh my God, Rich is a real asshole." But I would be so appreciative, like, "Oh my God, like, thank you. Without you, I would not be where I am today." So it seems like you have that same mentality.
I do have that same
Yeah.
feeling, and I don't understand otherwise. I mean, I do understand some people who are so very shy.
Yeah.
I mean, I certainly know when we speak of Olivia Hussey, she was one of those people
Yeah.
who was very, very shy about making public appearances. And then I don't know if you were at the Chiller, like, was it 2 years ago that she actually made an appearance at because she was promoting her book.
Oh, no.
She wrote a beautiful book called The Girl on the Balcony. Um, but I think it was more for the book. And when she was there, she was actually overwhelmed of how many
Uh,
people wanted to talk to her, obviously about Romeo and Juliet, but
yeah.
particularly about Black Christmas.
Oh, yeah. No, I'd say
So,
I
but
was there, but I
she
guess I
was
missed
very
her.
shy about it.
Yeah, I'm mad because now I go there every year, every October and every April when they have it, and for some reason, sometimes when I go on a Sunday, people will leave
Yeah,
early. So I
yeah,
wonder if that's what happened.
it's probably very true. I mean, I think it was unusual that she was there even the one day,
Yeah,
if that was all it was. And I'm sure, for people of her star status, it's overwhelming. I mean, it's even overwhelming to me if I get a lineup of more than 20 people. I'm
yeah,
going, who do they think I am? what why am I important to these people? But if I mean, I think with some people, I mean, at the latest chiller, when I was sitting next to John Cusack, I mean, the line was like forever, right?
Yeah,
And he didn't come back the second day. I
yeah.
think it can be overwhelming as well. And I think there's, come on, there's only so much adulation one, one can take before you kind of go, Is this real? I
Yeah.
mean, is this like, um, anyway, um, I don't know why some people find it very awkward to be a public figure like that, but then some people embrace it. I think it's there's a bit of both. You kind of go, if you're going to commit to doing one of these conventions, then you have to commit 100%. And it's so much fun when you allow that to happen.
Yeah, and I think it is too, and it's funny because most of the people I've been going to Chiller for years, and most of the people I've met, the ones that are most comfortable with it, the ones that have the most fun, are the people that have already made it. I'll give you an example. Like Martin Landau was great, George Hamilton, and then there was Henry Winkler was great, and some of the people that were like maybe either on the right way up or maybe they're not really in the business as much anymore, and they want to be more in the business. They were the ones that seemed you could tell they just had no interest in being there. They had no interest in talking to anybody. They're like, yeah, here you go, let's get a picture.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah. Yeah.
but people, like I said, for the first time I met you, we started joking around. We were dancing. We were having a good time. I loved it. You were just so much fun.
That's me now.
I know.
That's
I love
me.
it.
Uncensored. You get Lynn uncensored.
I love it. Well, I want to talk about obviously what everybody talks about with you at first is Black Christmas. I love that movie. I rewatched it for the first time in a while, and it's funny because I almost forgot about this. You get killed so quickly. Sorry, spoiler alert if you haven't seen it in the last 50 years. But spend
Yeah.
the rest of the movie talking about you. So it's you're in it
Yeah.
basically.
Well, and I think, it's not really a spoiler, Richard, because if you've seen any of the the photographs, they're all of me with a plastic bag on my head. So if you think for 1 minute that I survived that, then you really do need to watch Black Christmas
Yes.
and see what really
Yeah.
happens.
Either
Yeah.
if
I mean,
you
so
know it or
much of
don't
that
know it,
was
watch it.
used.
Yeah.
So that photograph was used so often and on every DVD and whatever that I think I became sort of synonymous with being and in fact when I worked with Eli Roth, he said, "Do you know that you are in that genre, you are a first victim?"
Hmm.
Now, I'm not sure he's actually right about that. Maybe close to being first victim, but of that genre of film, I guess, with Black Christmas coming out, what, 74,
Before.
that was, yeah, because they also talk about sort of Olivia being the first like survivor of a,
Yeah.
so, I mean, maybe it's true.
Yeah.
Maybe it is true. But it has been a heck of a ride over the last 50 years, seeing as, yes, it's 50 years old.
Yeah.
It just turned 50, that it is still so popular. I am so, I'm just honored to promote it as much as I can. And I'm just thrilled that so many fans have discovered it and that people like, you hear people like, oh my God, now I'm blanking on,
I can tell
but
you, Tarantino and Steve Martin.
Tarantino,
Yep.
and also if
Steve
you
Martin.
read uh um Riley Keough and has written a book called From Here to the Great Beyond with the voice tapes that she recorded of her mother Lisa Marie Presley.
Hmm.
So that book is in both of their voices. Very, very interesting book to read because
Hmm.
she transcribes Lisa Marie's tapes and then she comments upon them. But there came upon a point in the script, in the book, sorry, where she said that every Christmas they would all get together and sit down and watch Black Christmas.
That's fun.
Unbelievable.
Wow.
Elvis.
See,
Oh my God.
even the king loves you.
Oh man. That's pretty special. I
Which is,
also heard Steve Martin was a fan.
yeah, I
But
heard that too.
they keep turning up. I mean, and I'm always like thrilled and I go, okay, well, I'm still working. If you wanna put me in a movie with you, I'll, from my lips to your ears and your agent.
What was funny is that you actually worked in the movie Priscilla, about Priscilla.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wasn't that funny?
it
That
was.
was funny.
And
Yeah.
did you?
It gets even funnier because I did Priscilla with Jacob Elordi, and then Sean did Frankenstein with Jacob Elordi. So I said
Oh.
to Sean on the first day, you have to go up to Jacob and say, "My name is Sean Sullivan, and I sleep every night with your grandmother." Anyway, it's a good joke. Anyway, Jacob
I
was,
like it.
yeah, and Jacob was delightful, and
That's
yeah,
funny.
so, huh?
Yep. Well, you know what's funny? I haven't seen it in a while, and I forgot like how much it inspired. Obviously, Halloween, When a Stranger
Yeah,
Calls. Obviously, there's so
yeah.
many of the horror movies that I grew up watching that became so big, and if it wasn't for a Black Christmas, they wouldn't be where they are now.
Yeah, I think
Inspired
it
so
really
much.
was. I mean, for Bob Clark, God bless him.
No, I love that guy.
Um,
Love his movies.
yeah, and for him to do like the two sort of completely divergent Christmas movies of A Christmas Story and Black Christmas, and then in the middle somewhere they're Porky's. Um, I think it was really sort of groundbreaking at the time. Particularly, I guess there was a lot of it that they were creating sort of a very innovative way of filming it, which meant that a lot of it was shot from the actual killer's point of view.
Hmm.
And that was, something that both Bob Clark and Burt Dunk, the cinematographer, came up with because they created this kind of huge and bulky steady cam that Burt Dunk wore, not like the steady cams we have today, which have been, but that was like, might have been certainly the first time that kind of shot and that kind of cinematography was thought of, to do it from that point of view so that the camera is constantly moving. And if you see when there's hands, no spoiler here, but hands climbing up the trellis of the outside,
Yeah.
those are Burt Dunk. The hands that strangle me are Burt Dunk's hands. He's the one in the closet behind the plastic bags.
Yep.
So there's something about that I think is even more terrifying than actually seeing, violent murders and blood spatter and saws and God knows what else,
Yeah.
they use in these horror films now, that it's kind of a psychological way of working. And I think it did spark a genre for sure.
Well, I mean, the opening scene of Halloween is young Michael Myers with the mask on, his point of view. And it's funny because
Yeah.
I was doing my research on you, and I love what you said. It's the first use maybe of the steady cam, but you called it the heavy cam because it was completely different of how they did it. It's so
Like
impressive.
a regular camera that he had
Yeah.
somehow strapped on himself like a with a backpack or something.
Yeah.
It must have been impossible for him to maneuver it, but he did it so beautifully
Yeah.
and brilliantly. And I think I mean, I think that was quite shocking for an audience to see. And so much of, I think, both Bob and Bert's idea was you're watching the film from a different perspective as the audience. You're watching it from the killer's point of view, which is really quite fascinating.
Yeah, and it's also, you mentioned psychological thriller. I think I love the fact because Bob Clark proved you don't need blood and gore to make a
Yep.
good movie.
No,
And
no.
you just one movie that I love. You mentioned Porky's. You mentioned Christmas Story. One of my favorite movies from him is Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things.
Yes, I have seen that.
That is a great movie.
People have told me that I should watch it. Yes, I have seen that. Yeah.
He made
Uh,
so many great movies.
yeah, and now this is something that made me think of that too, because I've been such a fan of David Lynch, and with his passing,
Yes.
that really brought on a lot. And I've been watching, we started rewatching all of Twin Peaks, and we've been watching all of David Lynch's films, but I think that even David Lynch might have been, bless his heart, maybe slightly influenced by some of this work in those early days of horror films, although I think he took it to his own incredible unique level and perspective, which I don't think anybody can duplicate.
I agree. Well, you know what I love about David Lynch is like he even said a lot of his movies. He goes, "I want you to make up the ending." He goes, "I'm going to leave it where it is, and you decide what it is." And it's
Yeah.
just his movies
Well,
were,
and that's what Bob did
yeah,
with Black Christmas.
exactly, yeah,
I
and
mean, people have said I think he left it there because he was planning on doing a sequel, and I said, not to my knowledge.
yeah,
No, he left it hanging like that just for that very reason, to leave
yeah,
it ambiguous.
yeah. Well, that and I love the fact that he has a great sense of humor. That movie is not only scary, but it's also funny. I mean, the two parts I can think of right off the bat are the police department scene with the
Right.
fellatio. That is hilarious. I was laughing
Yeah.
for it. And then the
Yeah.
other part was when Margot Kidder, she's hilarious, where she's just harassing your father and just saying the crudest
Yeah.
things to this.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
from I want to see if I'm correct in this. Is that true? She was kind of a character actor, and to get in the mood for that scene, she was sort of like chugging a little bit. Is
Well,
that true?
I think, yeah, I think she was. She was
Or method actor.
definitely
Sorry, method actor. That's what I meant.
method. What did you say?
I said character, not character. Method
No,
actor.
no, method actress. Yeah. I mean, I think certainly remember, uh, I think because I think too, Olivia was pretty. I think we were all pretty like shocked at the time, like going, okay, whatever it takes, I guess. But I certainly kind of remember like Christmas party. There was a looseness, certainly when she's doing the story about the turtles. There was a looseness. Yeah, the police station, definitely.
That was hilarious.
Hey, whatever works for you. I mean, I think uh she was just wonderful as Barb. I mean, she was just so irreverent and wonderful. And I love that sort of interaction that we have at the beginning where, I'm playing the perpetual virgin. She couldn't hate me more.
Yes, I forgot about
I
that.
mean, you just can sense that sort of, oh, please, Claire, you know.
Was that all scripted, or was it some of it was
Oh
just
yeah, everything is scripted.
okay?
I mean, the only thing that we didn't know was what was actually being said on the telephone
Yes.
call. That, Bob had just sort of said it's a dirty phone call. And, at me at that point went, oh, the guy snuck in and stole your underwear or something. I don't know what a dirty phone call is. But so when I saw the film, I was actually quite overwhelmed that, oh, okay. That was a lot more naughty than I thought it was going to be.
That yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny because I wanted to ask you that because the things that he says on the phone are very very different from. Oh yeah, you have dirty underwear.
Yeah.
A little bit. It's funny.
Yeah. No, it was, but that was my imagination too of
Yeah.
what it was. I mean, but he didn't tell us. He didn't say
Yeah.
these are the words we're going to use. I don't think he probably even knew at that point. Then he went into the booth later with Nick Mancuso and himself, and they just recorded a lot of shit.
That was hilarious. Yeah. I'm lucky. I had the chance to meet Margot Kidder one time at a convention. She was
Oh,
another one.
that's wonderful.
Yeah,
Oh,
she was so nice, so friendly, so funny. Yeah, I'm so glad I got a chance to meet her before she passed away.
yeah. Oh man, it's
Yeah,
getting to that where, yeah, that was a very tragic end too. I'm
I know.
sorry. And yeah, she was wonderful. She was again one of a kind.
Yeah, I'm glad you worked with some great people, which we're going to talk about throughout the interview.
Yeah.
But I want to get back to your role in Black Christmas. Let's talk about how you're telling them the director and everything you're a good swimmer sealed the
Oh
deal for you.
yes. Yes. That got me the part. Sean's really good. My husband Sean says, "Oh, come on." He probably saw that you looked like the perpetual virgin as well.
No, I don't think that was it.
I don't know, but yeah, because I mean, I don't remember a lot about it, but I do
That's,
remember telling them that I could hold my breath for a long time,
that's funny.
which turned out to be, a real advantage to playing the role. Because once I was bagged, it was. We were having difficulty not seeing like condensation under the bag or not seeing the bag slightly moved when they had given me sort of some holes in my nostrils to be able to breathe through.
Yeah.
And I said to Bob, okay, forget, let's just go for it. Just put the bag over my head and I'm just going to hold my breath. And I'm like amazed now when I see the film because I do sort of a count to
Yeah.
see like how many seconds do I actually not breathe and keep my eyes fixed. It's pretty good, but I'd had a lot of practice at playing dead bodies by that point.
Yeah, yeah, you're really good at
Um,
it. You're really good at it.
but yeah, it was just one of those things. And and Bob was sitting opposite me the whole time. He was the one with his foot on the rocking chair
Yeah,
rocking me. He was just talking me through it. It was great fun to do.
yeah.
People say, "Oh, that looks like it was really uncomfortable," and I say, "No, it was actually kind of a riot, especially when the cat Claude wouldn't behave." And he finally kept hurling this cat at me because the cat wouldn't jump up on my lap. And then the cat would like, go down my legs with claws extended and stuff. Finally, they sprayed the bag with catnip, and we got Claude to get the shot with Claude. But I mean, it was a really fun. The whole thing was a really fun shoot. He made the whole thing like a Christmas party. I mean, it was like a Christmas party in my remembrance.
Yeah, I mean, just watching the movies that he's made, you could tell that he had a great sense of humor. And
Oh yeah.
yeah,
Oh yeah. I mean, we're calling him Uncle Bob, he was just so
yeah,
sort of lovely, great, wonderful teddy bear person that you just felt so comfortable with. And I don't even know whether I think he was one of, as far as my memory, he wasn't really one of those directors who directed you. He trusted you that he cast you
hmm
perfectly for the role. And I think that's true of a lot, because I think Andrea Martin is wonderful in the
but
movie as well. Wonderful, wonderful, and great relationship with Olivia.
yeah. What's funny you say that because I interviewed somebody that's done. He worked with Martin Scorsese and he also worked with Clint Eastwood. He said Clint Eastwood is basically one take done. He goes, "I trust you. You know what you're doing. Let's just do it.
Yeah,
No fooling
yeah,
around."
yeah. But then there's the absolute opposite kind of director that you're into. I can never remember his name, but I did an episode of Welcome to Derry, which is the prequel to It.
hmm
And bless his heart, I can never remember his name because it's sort of foreign, but bless his heart, he was directing it. And of course, they have that franchise, he and his sister. Um, but I did so many takes with him.
Oh,
I was literally kind of, and then he went away and said, "I'm going to rewrite the scene and we're going to do it with different words." Okay. And then he would say, do it like this, and I'd go, "Okay, I'm doing it like this." He said, "No, not like that, like this." And I went, anyway, it was like hilarious. I think
yeah.
that is finally going to be released. It's called Welcome to Derry. It was shut down by the pandemic for months, but
Uh,
um yeah, so there are definitely two different types of directors, and somewhere in the middle there, I
yeah.
mean, it's nice to get feedback too.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. The director I'm thinking of is Stanley Kubrick, who I'm just
Oh
Clockwork Orange and The Shining. I know he did at least 150 takes with
yeah,
Jack Nicholson alone, and I met Malcolm McDowell, and he was saying the same thing with
yeah.
Clockwork Orange.
Wow.
I think that's a little too
Wow.
much. Like
Yeah,
you said,
like,
after a while, and you
yeah,
just
you have to have the patience of a saint, because it's really hard not to take it personally that you're not delivering,
hmm
um if you're doing so many takes. And for most actors, I think you'll find they'll say, my first few takes are the best.
yeah,
And then I start to analyze, then I start to think about it too much. Then I start to make some kind of odd choices. Then I don't trust my instincts, and then I go off track.
exactly. And that's one of the reasons the person I interviewed who worked with Eastwood said the same thing. Is I want it fresh, I want it genuine, I want it. So the first
Yeah,
take, and usually, and he said every movie I've seen that Clint Eastwood directed, I love. His
yeah,
latest Juror Number Two, I think it's called. I was one of
yeah,
my
yeah,
favorite movies
yeah.
of the year. So
Well,
I
I think that's too also because, having an actor's sensibility himself, he
yeah,
may be very much the type that says, the first take is always my best take.
that could be
And,
true. Yeah,
when I then go and see the rushes, I'm looking at an actor just sort of, stop being as connected. It starts getting rote. The more you start repeating lines over and over again, you're not making them come out of your head fresh. They become modulated in a way that you've already decided you want to say them that way, and it's not as interesting. I find now, I mean, because now the business has gone to most auditions are self tapes. You're not in the room with the director anymore. But most of the self tapes that I have booked or enjoy making are the ones where I fuck it up. And I actually have to kind of ad lib a little bit out of the way and then
Yeah.
try and get back to the actual written script.
Yeah.
But those are the most fun because they're the most real, they're most natural. When you kind of go, I don't know what I'm going to say. Okay, I don't remember what my child's name is. Tell me what it is. Okay, it's Gino. Fine. All right, and I just keep going. And that's the take I send in.
I love it. And obviously
Yeah.
it's working for you because you're always working. So they
Well,
love it.
maybe not always, but sometimes when I do think, oh, I've got to take these words actually verbatim and get them, and then it sort of takes the air out of them.
Yeah. Another person, I'm not sure if you had a chance to even work with him because you were killed before he was even in the movie, and I met him at a convention as well, was John Saxon.
Well, I didn't meet John during the filming, but then when we started doing conventions, John was always by my side. John was the one who really mentored me into like how to behave in a convention. Because some of the first ones that we did, I mean, I'd sit beside him. He'd have a lineup 3 miles long of people who wanted his photograph, and I'd just be sitting there, and he'd go, okay, like it's your turn now. I'm gonna send it over to you, and you're gonna talk them up and stuff. So he was really great, and we did a couple of panels together. So I did get to know him. What a sweetheart. And again, these people that you go, some of them can be real, like what I call an a-hole, but he was just charming, so lovely. Again, these people that are all gone. This is why I keep talking and keep, being, the promoter of Black Christmas, because I go, so many of these gorgeous people have gone now. And if there's anybody, if it's, the mantle is put on me to keep talking about this film, I'll gratefully take it up and keep it going for as long as I'm around.
It's up to you. No pressure at all. No pressure.
Yeah. Well, because look here, see, this is a good moment. So every year I make Black Christmas ornaments. So that's my picture there, signed, and then the newest one, we're Black Christmas snow globes.
Right.
Okay, that's my little bit of promotion. I'll stop.
Well, no, we have a little bit more because we haven't talked about it yet, but I know you do the same thing for the movie Curtains.
Yes, I do. Although I don't think people think of Curtains as a Christmas movie, even though it takes place in the winter. I don't think they're not quite as interested in a Christmas ornament with my picture in it from Curtains.
Well, I'll tell you who is. I am. I definitely want to buy some. We'll talk.
Okay, good. Then, we'll
talk off the air where I can buy them. I'm going to buy at least one of each because I saw those at the convention and I said, I have to get those.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely welcome.
You'll
just, let me know and I will box them up for you.
You're the best. Well, you did Black Christmas, and it's funny because now that they're starting to do fan films. I was part of a fan film for Halloween. Somebody I met at a convention, he goes, "You're a really cool guy. I'd love to have you in my movie." I said, "Okay, let's do it." So I was in a fan film called American Halloween 3. Your fan film for Black Christmas, the first one was called It's Me, Billy.
Right.
Who started that? Was it a fan? That just obviously a fan who did it, and then how'd they get in touch with you?
Yes, well, I mean, they got in touch with me right from the beginning, because I wanted to help out with their Indiegogo campaign and offer up some of the, obviously, my merchandise to be able to, be what you call a perk if you put money into an Indiegogo campaign. So there are two filmmakers, Dave McCrae and Bruce Dale, young filmmakers who had this fabulous idea, and they had initially put together the first half of It's Me, Billy, part one. They had an Indiegogo campaign. I supported them all the way and said, it's really great. Obviously, I can't be in it because I'm dead. And then they said, well, no, we're actually going to do a chapter 2. And so over time, after they'd released chapter 1, then they decided to come back and write chapter 2. And then they said, well, we've decided that we can write a role for you, that you're going to be Claire's sister, Nancy, who's a private detective, who now is and has over the past 50 years been trying to solve this cold case and find out who the murderer is. And so that was the premise of part 2.
I love it.
Now what they're probably going to do is put the 2 parts together because they segue completely. They actually go from whatever the final shot in chapter 1 to beginning chapter 2 with that same shot and the same lovely actress. So now what they're thinking of doing is putting the 2 pieces together and releasing it as a feature.
Yeah. And Olivia was in the first one, wasn't she?
No,
she wasn't. Oh, for some reason I thought she was, because I know she backed out of the second one.
And Olivia was scheduled to be in the second one with
That's what it was.
And obviously, her health.
Yeah.
And also, at that time, we were coming off the pandemic, and then we had the SAG strike. So the SAG strike really made it also pretty much impossible to get a waiver for Olivia to come up and be in the film.
Okay.
I had already kind of gone on suspension from SAG. So, and quite honestly, I'm not a real union supporter. If I want to do an independent film, I want to do an independent film. And if they don't want to pay me, that's fine. So,
I love it.
Go under a union banner. I mean, so many things.
You rebel.
Yeah, but so many things get, like, they get kiboshed because the union steps in and they can't obviously afford to do. Now, with It's Me, Billy, the second part of it, they did do it under a union banner and, paid union actors and stuff. But the first one they had done fairly independently. But they're really, really good. They're like, and their cinematographer, let me get his name right. Greg, oh God, I'm terrible with names. Anyway, they have a brilliant cinematographer. We are now in talks with him because, now I'm going to segue a little bit, which I probably shouldn't. Anyway, so It's Me, Billy. You can watch both part 1 and part 2 on YouTube for free. So just let that sit.
Okay.
But we are now, my husband has written a play called The Slaughter Brothers Dime Circus. We are now making it into a film. And that cinematographer, what's Greg's last name?
Bennett.
Greg Bennett. Greg
Thank
Bennett,
you, Sean.
You are wonderful. Sean just came down to help me, with my memory.
And Richard Bergen is the film director.
And Richard Bergen, who I met in Chicago at a convention, who has a brilliant film you got to watch. You probably can find that on YouTube too, called Fang, F-A-N-G. So we saw his film. All this is coming together anyway. Now we're in the middle of an Indiegogo campaign.
I love it.
The Slaughter Brothers Dime Circus, so that we can film that, which is a play that Sean wrote pre-pandemic. We had been given a really sizable Canada Council grant to do the play, which we had ready to actually open in March, and then the pandemic hit. So we were delayed. During the pandemic, Sean turned it into a radio play, which we recorded. And then finally, when the theater doors opened up once again, we did put on the production as a play in Toronto. But we've had this great interest from this filmmaker, Richard Bergen, who wants to turn it into a film. So that's what we're working on now.
Do you have anybody for the director, producer for the film yet, studio?
Oh no, but it's Richard. Richard will direct, and also
have a studio.
We don't have a studio. This will be us.
I love.
This will be Baby Monster Productions.
Oh, I love it. So
Yeah.
you have your own production company?
Yeah.
Baby Monster Productions.
Baby Monster Productions. You can look us up online, see all the other things that we've done, and see Sean's solo play, which is called Baby Red Boots Revenge, which we've taken all over the world, and which I now direct. And yeah, oh God, there's just another little sliver of my life there, another sliver of my career.
You two are a real power couple.
Well, we try to be, even though
Take it
we go to bed by 10 o'clock.
Well, let's brag about him a little bit since he's right there. I mean, he's an actor, writer, composer, editor. He's done stuff such as Back to the Future 3, Wayne's World, Quantum Leap, My Sister Sam, Babylon 5, Caroline in the City, 54. I mean, that's just another small list of many things that he's done. So, Sean, I can't believe you were right there. All these questions I would have had for you, too. How are you? Nice to see you again.
Hey, get out of it. This is mine. He's very good. He's very good about sharing, and but I think you're also a little kind of shy about it. But
A lot of people in this business are. Yeah.
That's what we've been saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yes, if you want Sean, he will be available in a future date, and he
Absolutely.
will come on and maybe we'll both see you at Chiller.
Oh, you're definitely gonna see me
In
at Chiller again.
Cool.
And I finished I have my tea's
Yes,
done.
madam.
Yeah.
And there was some. Let's see. All right. So now I want to go back a little bit to another one of my favorite movies. Maybe some people don't want it as a Christmas ornament. I definitely do, but I loved Curtains.
Oh,
You and Leslie
sweet.
Donaldson.
Yeah, and Leslie Donaldson. God bless Leslie Donaldson. I think we're both going to try and make it to Cinema Wasteland.
I would love to
And
go.
I'm trying to get her to come to Chiller too. So hopefully she will. Yes, we've remained in contact. Over the years, we've remained in contact. When Leslie goes, well, I was living in LA, then she was living in LA, then
Yeah.
she was living in New York. I went and stayed with her in New York. We had a great time with Curtains because when it was released on DVD and Blu-ray, neither of us had seen it in a long time because initially there was a very bad bootleg that was going around of it. It was on like a DVD with 2 other horror movies, and it didn't have a big release. It had a lot of problems during production and a lot of reshoots and stuff. But when we finally saw the remaster and we got to do like just the commentary of it, we were like hysterical, the 2 of us, like watching and saying, oh, look how pretty we were. Look how they've made us look more attractive than we really were at the time. Wow, it's incredible. And then things like there's a moment in Curtains when I go, nobody knows and nobody can guess, but my mom is actually in the movie.
Yes.
So when I do conventions for Curtains, I'll say, if you can guess which character is my mom, then you get a free ornament. But
All right. Well, I know she's a thief, but I'm trying to think which thief she was. Like, I'm trying to remember in the movie because I haven't seen it in a while. I know she plays a thief.
a thief,
That's what-
interesting.
Okay, maybe Wikipedia is wrong.
Yeah, it's interesting that it says she's a thief.
Yeah. All right. So I have to rewatch it again because I did watch
Okay.
it several
Well,
months ago.
It was great for me because when we talk about me playing, like, dying in every film
Yes.
at that point, for me to actually make it, and this is not a spoiler because I'm just going to say, for me to actually make it to the final reel is pretty good for my career at that point in time. And
Yeah.
also because I got to play a stand-up comic, which of course I was not at all.
Well, I want to talk about that because I did stand-up comedy for a while and I had such a great time doing it. For me, it was just a hobby. I was just doing it for fun. Is that true that you went to a comedy club and all the jokes were written by you? So it wasn't
Yeah.
even a script. You just went up there and started telling
Yeah.
jokes. You
Yeah.
were funny. You were just a natural.
Oh, well, God bless you. Yes. We were actually at a comedy club called Yuck Yucks in Toronto, which is where Jim Carrey got his start. And they just decided to bring me in front of a live audience and film it. I was terrified.
Well, you
Anyway.
didn't
but,
show it
hey,
all.
No, well, yeah, see, I guess because again, see, that's acting. But it did feel like bare naked, getting up there. I mean, stand-up comedy is like appearing bare naked in front of an audience,
Oh, yeah, believe
which
me, I know.
I've done as well, but I wouldn't recommend it.
You've done it all, Lynne Griffin. You've done it all. Well, I know that there was a lot of friction between the director and the producer. Did you have any knowledge of that while you were filming it?
I didn't when we were filming it. I think even when you talked to Leslie, I think she was more aware of it than I was.
Yeah.
I was a real fan of the director Richard Chupka. Still am. I still keep in contact with him. Um, and I really thought we were making something beautiful. I mean, I really thought he was an auteur and he had a really beautiful eye. I mean, some of the first chunk of curtains is really quite beautiful. Then he took his name off the picture when they wanted to make it more of a slasher film. So Peter Simpson, who was the producer, took over and we came back and did reshoots. So the second part of the film, uh, where I believe Sandy Curry goes into the costume prop shop and she gets scared in there. And then the last scene with Samantha Egger and myself, and the last scene with me, were all part of something that we shot like a year and a half later. And then it was all kind of put together. Richard took his name off the picture. They put the name Jonathan Stryker, which is the name of the director in the movie. It's not the name of the director.
Yeah.
So it was a bit murky, I guess, in its initial release. And I'm very pleased that again, once it was remastered and put out DVD, Blu-ray, it's gotten some traction again because I like the film. I like the idea of the film that 6 actresses are up for the same role and one of them will kill to get it, literally. I think, that's not too far from the truth. Anyway, but it was sort of languishing. And now I think more interest has come. And I think I'd love to be able to promote it more. And I'd love to see more screenings of it happening. I did a screening of it in Chicago. It's not often that people ask me to do a screening of curtains and talk about it and do a little Q&A because it's actually kind of a fascinating story. I think Leslie and I did one, I think here that we talked about it, and also possibly New York. But I don't think a lot of people know about it. I still think it a bit obscure for some people. And I mean, it has it has its sort of holes and kind of questionable where you go, how did they get from that to that? And who's that who just fell in the snow? And who's in the hot tub now? I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's kind of unanswered, but I think it's getting more attention and people are enjoying it much more. And I think maybe it will have a little bit more of a life now, which makes me happy because I really liked playing Patty O'Connor. She was
a fun character.
something completely different from what I was normally doing. I was like this serious Shakespearean tragedian, that's what I was doing with my life until they thought I could play a stand-up comic. So it was good.
Yeah, well, what I love about you is whatever they ask you, you just going at full force, 1,000%. You're like, yeah, stand-up comedian,
right.
no problem.
That's
Heroin,
right.
no problem.
I will do anything. You know that my desire is still to do a film where I play a serial killer. That's my, this lovely little old lady that you never would suspect in a million years, who invites you over for some tea and cookies. And boy, in her basement, she's got a saw. And
John, if you're listening, start writing that now.
I have our friend Richard Bergen. I sent him a picture of this woman with all these knives hanging on the back wall and this sort of lovely kind of portrait of her, but she has all these knives. And he said, oh, I think I do have to maybe we'll make a picture about, grandma with knives. And I said, let's call it Jigsaw. If anybody wants to write this movie, but Jigsaw because of the Saw movies, obviously. But this little old lady sits at home doing jigsaw puzzles. Yeah. She invites you over to play with her jigsaw puzzles. But then she takes you downstairs, and what she likes to do is all her victims, she cuts up in little pieces, and then she puts them back together, but they're not quite right, sort of in a kind of Dr. Frankenstein way. She then makes these creatures that are put together from the jigsaw people she's cut up in pieces in her basement. The end. Let's do it.
Yeah, you know what? If you ever need an extra somewhere in the back as another victim, I'll be
Oh,
more.
well, you can be a victim.
I would love to be a
You can
victim.
totally. Of course, all my friends will be in the movie as victims.
And another thing, it's funny you mentioned about screenings for movies. I went to see a show the other night, and the people in charge were like, "We need to get." They know I do a radio show like this. Like,
Yeah.
we need to get more people in here. It's a brand new theater. And do you know anybody that would even come? We could do a movie screening and get the actor here. It's in Connecticut, but I know they would love to have you there, and I think it would get a big reception. I think there would be a lot of people showing up. But if you're interested, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I will talk about
all
that.
you have to do, you just have to, we get like really cheap airfares from Canada. We go, gonna go to Cleveland. We went to whatever, Parsippany, whatever. We get these cheap airfares, and if we do a screening one night, even if I just come do the screening, do a Q&A, and then put me on another plane and go home. I mean, it's really fun to do, and I would love to promote Curtains as much as I can.
Let's do it. Well, I'm gonna make this happen. So I will be talking to you after the interview. I'm gonna get in touch with them and tell them, because it was funny. It was just last week they asked me about that. I know you do a radio show. Maybe one of the actors would come and help us out. I said, let me see. And it's funny. You just mentioned about screenings.
And then maybe we could get Leslie to come as well.
That would be great. I would love to do it. All right, we're gonna make this happen.
Okay, cool.
Well, you mentioned in the middle of the movie, the producer changed the whole movie. Can we talk about what the original ending was going to be?
Well, the original ending, which we actually shot, I don't want to give away too much in terms of.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
But I actually, now that we're talking about that, and you're saying later send images, I have a still from the original ending.
Oh, good.
Which will show you that it ends quite differently for Patty.
Mm-hmm.
But it sort of does definitely, how can I say this without spoiling it? Let you know what her plans and motive was during the film, or for how Patty wanted the end of this movie to go. But I'll make sure to make a note to send you that image from the original ending. I don't know too whether in the original ending I had that, because the scene with Samantha at the end of the movie now was different as well. So I think what they wanted, it's so hard to I think I've given it away.
Yeah. I mean, it's been a while, so I think if people haven't seen it by now, then
well, yeah, but I like to at least, because there's so many people who think of me as just this funny, innocent person, both in film and in my life. But however,
you are a really good actress.
Yeah. So, and as we've already established, I'll do practically anything. Anyway, yeah, I think because the ending was very different. Yeah, I think I might have a photograph too of me. Yeah, I think I do, or at least we could show a little bit of just Patty turning at the end of the film and turning on Samantha, which you don't sort of expect.
Okay, I'm curious I can't wait. I'm gonna see if I can figure it out.
I know, but yeah, you have to watch the film to know the true ending, because I'll never give it up.
Okay, and I'm going to rewatch it again, because I've watched it several times. One when I was interviewing Leslie, then again when I was going to interview you a couple months ago. Mm-hmm. But does your mother, as a clue, does she have a speaking role? So I can look for it. No?
Not really.
Okay. I'm going to look for it. I'm going to see if I can pick her up.
I mean, she is not completely silent.
Okay.
But she does not speak dialogue.
Okay. And she's not a thief, like Wikipedia says. Okay. No. I'm curious. I don't know why they put that in there, but when have you ever known Wikipedia to be incorrect?
Oh my God. I mean, at one point they had me I don't know. I was like 5'9" and weighed 115 pounds. That's never happened.
You're like, that's one fact I don't want them to take out.
But I thought, well, maybe I'll just leave it at that. That's kind of my
Exactly.
dream body anyway.
I love it. Well, one of the things I love is that you said that for Black Christmas and Curtains, women found it empowering for them. One example would be in Black Christmas, Olivia Hussey with the abortion and Curtains.
Yes. I mean, in 1974, I mean, even discussing abortion
Yeah.
was highly, highly unlikely. That, that was at a time where it wasn't even really spoken of. And I guess because of the way Olivia comports herself in that movie, and from that moment on in the scene with Kier, people were really, really rooting for her as an empowered woman. I found that quite astonishing at the time, the first time someone came up to me and said that they found the movie to really be a strong portrayal of women in film, even though, so many of them don't make it in the film. You're like, but they're still strong up until that point. And then Olivia takes it like all the way to the end, even though obviously she is clearly mistaken.
Yeah.
You do believe that she has provocation and that she acts upon it. I think that's great. And I think they thought that way. I guess they think that way a bit about Curtains.
Yeah.
Only that it's like, again, for a woman to be both the protagonist and the antagonist at the same time is very cool.
It is.
And should happen more in movies for sure. And I think what does make those two films unique.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that young women find them empowering in that way. Because I certainly didn't think of that at the time. So it was quite a nice revelation to me when someone said that. And now it comes up more in conversation when we talk about the films.
Well, it's funny. It's like people may be watching it now, like you said, it really wouldn't be that big of a deal. But back in 1974, somebody saying, "No, I don't want to have the child. I want to get an abortion." That was not the thing back then. Never.
Actually, like pretty verboten. No,
Yeah.
You don't. Even if you're thinking of it, you don't talk about it. You certainly, it would be something that you would go mysterious back alley place and have it happen. You wouldn't actually announce to your boyfriend. You wouldn't even tell your boyfriend. You wouldn't tell your parents, for God's sake. I mean, no one would know. It would be something that you would have to secretly be shipped away somewhere to some home or other to have your child and then have it adopted. I mean, it was just not something that was talked about at all in 1974. So I think that was really kind of bold of Bob, and to include that in the film. And also, she's pretty strong-willed all the way through. And definitely willing to, and I love the fact that when you watch the film now, you see that she's very, very worried and concerned and protective of the girls in the sorority house, even though she doesn't know what's really going on at that point. She's protective for all of them, including Mrs. Mack and everyone. She does take on that that mission of being able to be in charge of the whole situation, which is very empowering.
Yeah. Well, a perfect example of that is your scariest scene in the movie when she runs back into the house.
Yeah.
And everybody else like, let's get out of there. And she says, nope, I want to save my friends. And she goes in there.
Absolutely. And always the one that gives the audience the jumps.
Yeah. I mean, both these movies right now we're talking about, I love every frame of it. They were done so very, very well done.
Wow.
And so I've watched a couple of, we're going to talk about some more of your movies afterwards, but I mean, everything you've done, I have not seen one bad movie so far. And I'm being serious.
Let me see if we can think
That's a
of
challenge.
one. Yeah.
I know. Well, let's see before the end of the interview. Let's see if we can find one. But
Okay.
all the ones that I've seen, I've enjoyed immensely.
That's great. That's lovely. Thank you.
And there is a connection. I want to talk about this with a former guest of mine. I interviewed Adrienne Barbeau not too long ago. So I want to talk about how you bought Adrienne and John's house in Laurel Canyon.
Yeah. Yep. How interesting was that? Well, Nancy Loomis,
Yes.
who is now called Nancy Keyes,
Mhm.
but Nancy Loomis was a very dear friend of mine when we met when I first moved to LA, and I was married to the cinematographer of Strange Brew named Stephen Poster. He was friends with Tommy Lee Wallace,
Mhm.
and they shot a movie in Hawaii called Hanama Bay. Um, anyway, this connection came. I ended up marrying the cinematographer from Strange Brew, and we bought this house in Laurel Canyon on Wonderland Avenue, and then found out later that it had been John Carpenter and Adrienne Barbeau's house. And we found that out because Nancy, of course,
Yeah.
knew that
Yeah.
she had been there because she'd been a friend. Her and Tommy Lee Wallace,
Yeah.
who she was married to, had been friends, obviously, and collaborators with Halloween. And Nancy Loomis had played one of the first victims in Halloween for
Annie.
John Carpenter. And so she was very dear friends with Adrienne Barbeau. Anyway, that connection. And then, yes, that beautiful house with a swimming pool. And although it was very, the hillside fell down into the pool during the quake. Who knows? I mean, that's why I was so concerned about the LA fires, I guess,
Yeah.
because I went, if it hits Laurel Canyon, I'm devastated. I would
Wow.
be devastated. Fortunately, they managed to kind of stop it before it, kind of came over the hill and into Hollywood. But it was a very, very, very nail biting week, I must say. And, a lot of friends were displaced. One of my friends, she had, I believe she told me she had 80 different friends in the Palisades who lost their homes.
Wow. Whew.
It's unbelievable.
It is unbelievable. For me, a couple of years ago, I want to say it was definitely pre-COVID, so it's been more than a couple of years. There was a documentary Jacob Dylan did called Echo in the Canyon. I love that documentary.
Oh,
So, but right, with perfect timing, right after that, maybe 3 months later, my girlfriend had something in California. She goes, "Do you want to go and meet me there?" So we met her. I said, "We have to go to Laurel Canyon." So I went on it was called the Hippie Hideaway. This couple were hilarious. These two hippies. So he's describing the geography and the land and he said, "Oh, it's so beautiful." So I was saying, "Well, what about Mamas and the Papas? What about the Beatles?
yeah.
What about?" And then he goes, "Oh, I might have to add that to my tour." What else? Like, 'cause it was so
Oh,
fresh in my head.
God.
So he was more talking about the land, and I'm talking about the music and
The
all the people that lived
people
there because it was
and the
so fresh.
music scene, Joni Mitchell,
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. I mean, unbelievable. I wasn't really aware of that too much when I lived there. I mean, I was,
Yeah.
but I didn't take advantage of it the way I should have, I think. I was more about trying to establish myself in LA as an actress, and
Hmm.
but when I think now, I mean, watching those movies, I think Echo of the Canyon, and isn't there another one, a documentary about Laurel Canyon? It breaks my heart when I see them now, and I go, I was there.
Oh,
I was at the Canyon store. I was all those places.
yeah.
I did all those things. We dined at Musso and Frank's. We everything about it. We went to Greenblatt's for the great, corned
Mhm.
beef sandwiches. I did. I lived that life for, I don't know, maybe about 4 or 5 years. And and then I just abandoned it all. And I've abandoned two of my life. I abandoned the first one in Toronto, which I always have a bit of regret about. And then I abandoned the one in LA. And then I came back to Toronto. I mean, I couldn't be happier now. I mean, now I've kind of settled and I'm fine. But I go, it's when you get to those two different roads that your life could go,
Hmm.
and why does one take you, and one would have taken me completely the opposite way.
Yeah.
um you can't help but think back on those. I mean, I have a lot of dreams about it, and about times living there, and what if I had taken that different road.
Hmm.
um and but it's so funny because I took that other road in LA, whereas where I then met Sean in doing a play at the Old Globe Theater in San Diego. But then I took him and brought him back here to Toronto. I'm really like, I'm sort of like this magpie, aren't I? Or this, like, that, just like whatever I've got, I want to hold on to, but I
Yeah.
also want to be a gypsy.
Yeah. Well, it seems like
It's
you're having a
weird. It's a
pretty.
weird kind of dichotomy I have in myself, that I always said, like, I couldn't be one place more than 5 years in a row,
Yeah.
or with one situation more than 5 years in a row, where I didn't want to travel away from it, even for a day, even just get in the car and drive to a different place, or say, I'm gonna, where's the next flight out of LA? Where should we go? I mean, I was like that then.
Yeah.
And so I think you leave a lot of opportunities behind, and you also create a lot of new opportunities.
Hmm.
But I do think back about how many different ways my life and certainly career could have gone.
Yeah. Well, even if you didn't stay there, too bad you didn't know more of the history. Like you said, I wanted to talk
Yeah,
to you about that store because I went to that store and I guess Mama Cass used to live there and they take a picture every, I don't know, I'm not sure if you were a part of this, but they were saying every, I think it's once a year, they take a picture of all the people from Laurel Canyon in front of the store. And one
yeah,
time Steven
yeah.
Tyler wanted to be a part of it, but it was so packed. They actually had to superimpose a picture of his head in there so he could be in the picture. He wanted to be in the picture so bad, but it was so crowded. Were you ever a part of that?
Well, you see, and I wonder about my. I'm just going to move myself out of the really bright sunlight that's just coming into the window now.
Ah,
Um, I wonder about why Stephen Poster wasn't more connected. But I mean, he was certainly, I mean, he was a cinematographer, so he was much more concerned, I guess, with um, keeping his focus on, you know, being a DP, working with all these wonderful people, making movies himself. I mean, Pee Wee's um,
Big
mm,
Adventure.
Pee-wee's Big Adventure. I mean, he worked on Rocky. Yeah, he worked with Ridley Scott. I mean,
Wow.
he was really, really up and coming. And as far as I know, I mean, he doesn't really keep in touch with me, although he doesn't know I follow him somehow and try and find out what he's up to. Because I think he was head of, not maybe not the DGA, but the Cinematographers Guild or something for a long time, and was still making movies. I know that he went to Europe and made some movies with French directors and stuff. But I go, his he was a very driven person as far as his career. Um, so I guess he wasn't as um, fascinated by the history of Laurel Canyon as much as I was, but didn't really get to experience. I mean, I was experiencing the world of like Vimosh Zsigmond and, Steven Spielberg and these people, uh, um, people that he was very close to, and um, impressively close to,
Yeah.
and that I felt uh, uh, honored to be tagging along on that. Like, I guess when you say, when you hitch your wagon to some other star, he was sort of the star at that point, and it wasn't up to me to really divert from that as much as be supportive of that.
Hmm.
So it was a bit, some Svengali stuff going on. I think very unusual for him to marry this Goy girl. When he was this lovely, Jewish film Jewish boy from Chicago who had, been so lauded and supported and all his life. I guess it was a departure for him to marry this shiksa goddess.
Mhm. That was
But it didn't last.
oh well, but it was definitely a good wagon to hitch something onto.
Yeah,
'Cause that's
yeah,
yeah.
and yeah, and I loved my time in LA.
Yep.
I missed my home in Toronto. It was funny because I kept going back and forth because there were writer strikes and actor strikes back then, and it was fine with me. I would just get on a plane and go back to Canada and work.
Yeah.
So that didn't really affect my career that much. It just kept, and of course, once you come back to Canada after you've worked in LA, your cred goes up incredibly, right? You are now, you've been hired by,
Yeah.
Stephen Boschko. You must be good. Yeah.
Let's see. Another movie I want to talk about. Oh, actually, no. Before we do that, I want to talk because you mentioned strikes. I want your opinion on this. One of the last strikes that they had was because of AI. What's your opinion on how AI, what they're doing, inserting people's them in movies without their permission?
Yeah. Yeah. It shouldn't be happening.
I agree
That's
with
the
that.
end. I have no, I mean, AI in general, as far as the movie business and being able to uh, take your, I mean, and I've seen some of it so far is terrible.
Oh
It's
yeah.
terrible. And even when they were going, well, now we can actually make a movie and we could have Humphrey Bogart and Lauren Bacall and we could just put words in their mouth. I don't understand it. I've never even really have an understanding of people who remake movies that are definitive. And you go, why are you making this movie again?
Yeah.
I mean, even when they started making all these sequels to Black Christmas, I was going, why? So I think, is something, I mean, I guess it does have value. Uh, I'm not really sure what its applicable value is yet in
Mm-hmm.
terms of how can it be used to a good advantage. I don't think it can be in the film industry. I just think to take actors' images or voices or whatever and use them in some other context without their consent is
Yeah.
just wrong.
Oh,
It's just
exactly.
wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, when I think of even back in the day, when Bob Clark showed me the poster that he was going to use for Black Christmas and said, "Isn't this fabulous? Are you happy to have this?" And I was like so thrilled and gobsmacked. But at the time, most of the actors in the world when they signed their contract, signed the use of their images were given to those companies in perpetuity throughout the universe.
Mm-hmm.
So I have not seen a single cent from anything that has been used to promote that film in terms of my own image, which
Yeah.
is why I make my own, ornaments and that I have that little bit of I don't know, a hold still, a little kind of part of me that I hold on to, that I say at least I'm being able to sell my image my own way, because I have no control over it. Most contracts, as far as I remember, maybe now uh, people are much more aware of not signing their their life away. I
Yeah.
mean, there is someone now, I should go and get it, but Sean is gone. I'd have to walk away anyway. Sean might be home in bed. He's left the house. But someone has made an action figure of me. Of course, I'm delighted. I'm
Yeah.
thrilled. But at the same time, I mean, he's not licensed. I don't know what could happen to him. I don't know if I start selling them, what will happen. Is that a good thing?
Yeah.
But I now have a very, very beautiful action figure that I think you maybe saw. Had you been, because it was given to me at Chiller. It might have been after we talked.
I think it was. I definitely don't remember seeing that. I would love to
No,
have seen
and
it.
I did post a video of it, of him giving me, because he thought it would, I thought it would just be some photograph or poster, and he said, no, I think you're going to be surprised. And it
Yeah,
was like, oh my God, I now have an action figure. I
that
am iconic. Yo. um so any use of your image, I mean, sometimes I've heard my voice used on something that I've never been involved with, and trying to get to the bottom of that, and trying to get any kind of compensation for it, forget it. You're not going to be able to do it. Even like our union here, maybe SAG is a little bit better, but our union here has a very hard time policing how your image or some of your films are used. There are things that I have shot that we used to sign like I think it was like a 7-year release, that they were able to use that film in whatever way they wanted for at least 7 years, and then they had to start paying you some kind of residual.
yeah.
Dream on, my dear. Some of them, yes, some of them, yes. I did a television series here called Wind at My Back. Never seen any residuals from it.
Not right.
And it plays all over the world.
Yeah, see, that's not fair. I mean,
So,
they have
then,
more than enough money to
getting
pay.
back to AI, it's
Yeah,
just a further example
yeah,
of how your image can be taken and used in some way that you have no control over, and that you're never going to see a cent from, is just not right.
yeah.
And I don't know how well the unions can fight that, because I think there's always ways of sort of doing it under the radar and doing it in a sort of surreptitious way. And you find, I remember seeing one very bad AI thing of Elliot Page, maybe still Ellen Page, but then they'd done the thing with Elliot Page. It's just terrible.
Oh,
It's
really? I
terrible.
didn't hear about that one, but
And I'm sure they had no idea and
yeah,
had not given permission, because it was also awfully done, and it was
yeah,
just a piece of garbage, and you're just going, I, so if someone can actually sit down and talk to me about the value in terms of going forward with, our lives the way they are by using AI, I'd be very happy to have that discussion, because
yeah.
I'm just not a fan.
No, I'm not a fan either. And also, I was speaking with an actor, and he was saying that for writers, a lot of times they'll have AI write the first draft of
Yeah,
something, and then they'll touch it up. That destroys the creativity. I mean,
yeah,
they can AI. One time, just as a joke, I have this little app. I think it's Chatbox, whatever it's called. I can't
yeah,
remember.
yeah,
But I said, let me write a horror movie based in Farmington, Connecticut about this. Within 10 seconds, I had a whole book, but I read it. I said, this is so generic. It's not really original. And unfortunately, from what the actor I was speaking with said, that a lot of writers are doing that as a first draft, and then they can sort of just touch that up. Start from scratch. Use your imagination. I think, and for you, it's definitely wrong where they're using your
yeah,
image. You're not getting any money. And another point I want to make up was about remakes, because Kevin Smith, I saw an interview with him, and he was saying that he goes, these studios could give a shit less about the movie content. All they care about is getting asses in the seats. So they have a name that sounds familiar. Oh, wow, Black Christmas. Let's go see it. I remember that movie from the 70s. They go there, they make their money, and then they put a new movie in. So it's unfortunately these studios could care less about the quality of the movies. Not all.
right.
Speaking generically, but for the most part, they just want a name that sounds familiar. It's sort of like with bands. Oh, we don't want you to play originals. We want you to play some cover songs, like these local bars, because people get drunk and they can sing along to the classics. I think with movies too, it's like, oh, Black Christmas. Oh, everybody loves that movie.
Yeah, yeah.
Nobody cares. I never even bothered to see the remake. I had zero interest. I still have zero interest in seeing the remake. There's only one Black Christmas for me,
Oh,
1974, Bob Clark.
thank you, Richard. Thank you. Yeah. I mean, I understand that there aren't that many original stories in the world to tell, and that, you're going to plagiarize somewhere, somehow.
Yeah.
And so are writers, and so are musicians. There are only so many, chord progressions, I guess, in some, but you go, be original. Why would you want your name attached to something that was plagiarized or was AI? I don't understand. Uh, well, I mean, if you're going to make money, I guess you make money however you can.
Yep.
But it's a shame. I mean, it's a shame because I do think there are original stories to tell, even if they are, little bits of it. I've always, I watch other actors' performances from way back when if I'm going to play the same role. And I'll admit there's, gestures or things, the way they've said a certain line, I might steal that because it really worked and it was really good. But I do it in homage. I don't do it to just like duplicate something somebody else has done. And I'll never do it in a way that's like so completely and extensively stolen without giving some kind of recognition of that. It just doesn't seem right. But then again, I guess, the problem is if something is successful, somebody's going to try and duplicate it or take it to another step further. You have no control over that. So I guess you have to be, what do they say? Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery.
Yeah. Well,
I say imitation is the sincerest form of identity theft.
I'm with you on that one. The only reason I like remakes is because sometimes I think it brings attention to people that never knew there was an original. Like, oh wow, this isn't the original. Let me check out the other one. And I've seen
True.
In the past. I've had friends that say, I would say you have to see the original. Don't even buy. Yeah. Oh, there's another one. I didn't realize that, and then that would bring their attention to the 1974 movie or something.
I think that happened a lot with Black Christmas. Yeah. I think that's maybe why it's getting more attention now, as well as the fact that it's now 50 years old and celebrating that. But I think a lot of attention came from the remakes and then people going, oh, that's interesting. Let me see what the original was like. Yeah. And then saying they preferred the original. That's great.
Yeah,
that's great if it brings them in that way, and it opens up the audience to the 1974 version. You can't deny that's a plus, a bonus in some ways.
Yeah. Well, I'm old school with a lot of things. I don't like AI. I don't like remakes. And another thing I don't like is CGI. I love old fashioned effects. I love the old, when you have to, and actually, and it's funny because, Gene Siskel made a comment years ago. He said the last good movie was made in the 70s, and Roger Ebert asked him why. He goes, back then you had to rely on character development and a good story and good acting. He goes, now, basically, they just throw a whole bunch of explosions in a movie and that's it. And most of these movies, the first movie that I ever noticed, I tell this to a lot of people, was when Twister came out. Oh, there's one. Oh, wait, there's a bigger one. Oh, look at that Twister. I said, there's no plot to this story at all. It's just one. And they were just basically showing off how great CGI and how great they can make the Twisters look. I could care less how great they look. I want to care about these characters. I want to see, it's like if somebody dies, I want to feel sad. If somebody overcomes something, I want to feel good about it. I'm like, I care less about anybody in this movie. And I think that was the first movie that I noticed where CGI started to take over some of these action blockbusters.
Oh, and it became the movie. That was what the movie was all about. Yeah. The interesting thing for us, certainly with the Slaughter Brothers Dime Circus, is because it was a theater piece, we had to create everything out of nothing.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have that ability. And we're very, very aware that when we turn it into a film, we will have other tools at our disposal, but we want to keep the effects as they were when we accomplished them on stage, because we're pretty proud of what we did with nothing and a fairly limited budget, to say you can create magic. And I think that, having that ability to, to say a red scarf becomes the blood coming out of the mouth rather than having real blood. I mean, to make the blue sheet become the water. I mean, those things I've always found fascinating when they've done them in theater productions. I mean, now even, we're using a lot of assists in theater productions too. And we did a little bit of it by having a screen at the back and being able to do some projections of images that we wanted for their effect. But still, it's different than actually using CGI.
Yeah.
And I think in the long run, it's maybe more interesting to see how innovative a filmmaker can be with using whatever is at hand, as opposed to thinking we'll shoot this part of the movie and then we'll just send it off to some magicians who are going to put all. I mean, we have a lot of things in Slaughter Brothers that are stuff that was created by original artists. It is like horror, but they are images that were created by, and those artists actually made those models for us.
Yeah.
They actually exist. They're not nothing. I hope we won't try and rely on CGI very much when we actually make that movie. It might end up being more cost effective to try some, but as much as I'd like to be aware that there are all kinds of tools that are available really for like no money that you can use, but they're not the same as being inventive.
I agree with that 1,000%. It's similar to a psychological thriller like Black Christmas or a blood and guts movie. Your imagination is way worse in what is going on.
Absolutely.
Than
what you
what
don't
they can put in the
see
screen. Exactly.
is always much more frightening than what you actually do see. And I find what you do see in some of these movies is just gratuitous.
Exactly. I agree with that 1,000%.
Yeah.
They're just doing it for shock value. And it's just not really even entertaining. After a while, it's just boring.
Yeah. And we get it. And we get, how horrible can it get? Yes. How, and real blood spurting out of here. And I mean, we've seen some. I mean, we try and watch a little bit of horror, and as much as some of the ones that are being made now. We just watched this one called A Different Man with Sebastian Stan, and the effects in it are great, but I think they're real makeup effects. I think they're real. They're really happening on screen. They aren't done by CGI, as far as I know. If I'm wrong, I'm sorry. But I kind of feel that movie made it clear to me that you can still make a really good kind of body horror film without relying on CGI.
I'm not sure. Speaking of movies like that, I'm not sure if it's older or newer, but somebody referred it to me and I started watching it last night. It's called Red Rooms. It's a French movie.
Oh.
It's a really good movie where it's about this serial killer, but it all takes place in a court. And there's two women that are obsessed with him for different reasons. You don't know why they're obsessed with him, but I cannot wait to finish watching it tonight.
Oh.
But yeah, I think you'd like it. And it's similar to, I don't know if it's another French movie I saw in the theater. This is the one thing I loved about COVID, because there weren't a lot of movies being released, so they were showing movies they would never show in the theaters. And one was called Anatomy of a Fall. It was another French movie.
Oh, yes, I've seen that film.
Yeah, so this movie reminds me of that. If you like that movie, you're going to love this one.
Yeah.
But I just love movies like that. It's like, where the hell is this going with? It has me on the edge of my seat. It's tense. It's intense. It's just, it's great.
Now, was this available on YouTube or streaming service?
I was watching Red Rooms on Shudder. I'm not sure if you had that. It's a horror movie.
Yeah, I know Shudder. No, yeah.
But it might be found elsewhere though. So that's
yes, of course.
I think it was released. I think it was last year, 2024. So I think you should be able to find it maybe on Amazon or whatever you have.
Right.
But definitely, it's worth checking out.
Oh, good. Oh, good. Yeah. I mean, because and over Christmas we watched. I mean, it's so funny because Christmas Day we watched The Substance.
Oh, I love that movie. Did you like it?
And then on New Year's Eve we watched Blue Velvet.
Oh, just good. When you mentioned David Lynch, I said that is my all-time favorite of his movies. I love Blue Velvet. And not Harvey Keitel. Who's the Dennis Hopper?
Dennis Hopper.
Oh my God, he is great in that movie.
I originally, ooh, whoops.
Hey,
I tried to, yeah, ooh, that just, yeah, this time of day we get this blast of sunlight in the front window. I watched Blue Velvet the first time I watched it in a film festival where I had watched 7 movies in 2 days at this film festival. So when it got to Dennis Hopper, I said, that's it. I'm done. I gotta leave. I can't watch any more of this. So I had not watched all of Blue Velvet until this New Year's Eve with Sean. And it was really, I mean, it's an amazing film. I mean, now we're like watching all day. We actually watched The Straight Story last night. Yeah. Totally different film. Beautiful, Richard Farnsworth. I mean, when you talk about David Lynch, Eraserhead, oh my
yeah.
God. Yeah. But then you talk about The Elephant Man. I mean, geez, the scope of this man's career and what else he might have done. And what's sad is, I don't know if any of this is true, but David Lynch in later life had, what's it called? When you have trouble breathing, like a COPD, but it's called
not emphysema.
Emphysema.
Okay.
And part of the problem was the LA fires.
Oh.
They had to take him away from the LA fires because of his emphysema.
Wow.
And that might have been partly what caused him to pass away, is that he inhaled, because anywhere there, the smoke was toxic.
Yeah.
Toxic.
I can imagine, especially with emphysema. My aunt died from emphysema, and I remember she had, I think, 10% of her breathing capacity at the time.
I mean, if he was, I don't know where he lived in LA, but even if he was not in the Palisades, even if he was anywhere near, they said that still, even now, the toxicity in the air is deadly.
Yeah. You know what I loved about
9/11.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, what I loved about him was his fearlessness. He just made movies that, like you said before, is so out there and so great. I mean, you go from Twin Peaks, Mulholland Drive, Blue Velvet, Elephant Man, and there's so many, like you said, the scope of his movies. Eraserhead. It's like, what the hell is going on here? And I love every second of it.
Yeah.
And what'd you think of The Substance? I'm curious.
Which what?
The Substance. You mentioned you saw that. What was your opinion? I love the movie.
I don't know whether, I don't think it was probably the best movie to watch on Christmas Day.
Yeah.
Because we were like, well, I think I have to give it a rewatch to
I think you should.
And I was seeing it with a bunch of other friends as well, and so we were like, what are we watching? Why aren't we watching that Alistair Sims Christmas Carol? Anyway, so I think I have to give it a rewatch, because I don't even know why I thought at the time to have that film be any kind of a role model or empowering for women was really wrong. And quite frankly, if I looked like Demi Moore did in that picture, I wouldn't touch a thing about myself.
Thank you. You know what I said? Because when I was talking about
she was gorgeous.
She's gorgeous, and she's so much prettier than Margaret Qualley. I'm not putting her down, but I'm saying, like, you did not have to change at all. So you were perfect the way you are.
Yes, absolutely. So it does say something about the way she was handled by the production company that this woman was working for. In the film, that they thought she was too old or too whatever has been. But it was a little hard to believe that she would be persuaded that she wasn't stunning enough, when I thought, man, if that's what Demi Moore looks like now, geez, I hope her career and I think her career will explode. I think she'll get lots of offers.
Yeah.
And that's great. And that's great. And the other funny thing, when I did a con with Dave Thomas, and we did a Q&A, and Demi Moore was the original hire to play Pam in Strange Brew.
Mm-hmm.
But because of Canadian content, they weren't able to use her, and that's why I got the part. Anyway, so Demi, whatever you can get, whatever you can turn this into, and I love that you won the Golden Globe, and I love that you got an Oscar nomination. But whatever you can turn it into, I'm all for you. I stole a role from you way back when.
That is funny.
But yeah, it's like, I don't know if it's good to kind of reinforce that to women, that they have to cut themselves up and plastic surgery themselves to be of value. That's not a great message to send, I guess.
Well, the funniest thing about that movie is it was directed and written by a woman.
Yeah.
Which I do this with a lot. Whenever I like a movie, I go back to who directed and I watch their other movies. She did another movie called Revenge, which is it's very, very similar to. Did you ever hear the movie I Spit on Your Grave?
I have heard of that movie. Yeah.
Well, it's funny. There's a connection with Demi Moore with that, because there's a poster with the woman with a knife. All you can see is her ass in the tight shorts. And one time, I don't know if you ever heard of Full Moon Entertainment, but it's a low-budget company that does these low-budget horror movies. And she walked in. She was getting a role in her very beginning of her career, and she saw the poster, and the director thought she was offended by it. And he goes, "I'm sorry. I just, I like that poster." He goes, "She goes, no, that's me." What? He goes, "Yeah." She goes, "I was 16 years old. They asked me for a model a poster. That's my ass." And started laughing. So that's her for I Spit in Your Grave, which movie Revenge, directed by that same woman that did The Substance, has a movie that's basically a carbon copy, but whatever country she's from. Is she Canadian, I think? I'm not sure. The woman that directed it. Is she from America?
Oh, I don't know. Is she?
I don't know. I have to look it up. I wasn't sure if she was from, because I think the movie I saw, Revenge, I don't know, I think it had subtitles. I have to double check it. It's been a while. Yeah. But anyway, so there was a little connection with that. I think if you rewatch it, because I remember when I saw it in the theater, I'm like, what the hell just happened? Especially the last 20 minutes of it.
Yeah. But I think that's where that's where the focus on Demi Moore's acting ability comes in.
Oh yeah.
When she is playing the sort of last 20 minutes of the film.
Yeah. Well, going back
but
to
if she ever wants to be my body double, if they ask me to do a nude scene in a film now and she wants to body double for me, that's fine with me.
Well, according to Wikipedia, you have the Demi Moore body.
There you go.
Well, there's another movie, speaking of your movies, it was really more of a TV miniseries. I loved this, was Stephen King's Storm of the Century.
All right. Oh, yeah.
Yep. So I want to talk about that because I met the director, Craig R. Baxley. He's a stuntman. He worked for movies like The Warriors, Close Encounters. I want to have him on the show. I just have to read his book first and refresh my memory of what he's done so I get the interview ready. But he is a great guy. What was it like working with him?
No, I think I just worked with him again.
Oh, really?
But it was just oh God, what was the name of the film? Because I don't remember everything that I work on. And it was just a voiceover that he wanted. But I came in the room and I went, "Craig." And he went, "Yeah." And he said, "I wanted to work with all the people that I'd worked with once."
Wow.
And bring them all back, because it was a movie about a call-in. I don't remember what it's called now. I'll get back to you on that.
Yeah,
but
please. I want to watch it if I can.
Because it was about a woman who's on a call-in. So obviously what he did was he had all the actors that he'd worked with that he appreciated or wanted to work with again come in and do all the call-ins. So it's not you on camera, it's just your voice, right?
Yeah.
As on like a call-in radio show. Anyway, I'll remember.
Yeah, please. When you do, you and I are friends on Facebook, so send it to me. So
I
watch it. You also worked on the movie Colm Fiore. You worked with him in Stratford, so you had a little bit of.
I had a long. Yeah, and he's still. I mean, and he also worked on an Umbrella Academy with Sean.
Yep. Oh wow.
Yeah. So
a lot of connections.
Oh, it's a small world in its way. It really is. But yes, I enjoyed doing Storm of the Century, I guess. My memory is of it that they made a full cast of me so that I wouldn't have to lie in the snowbank dead. So there was a full body dummy made of me with my face and everything, like dead in the snowbank. And when we wrapped, they asked me if I wanted that to have that body. And of course, at the time I said, are you kidding?
Oh,
What am I going to do with it? And it was so horrible.
I love it.
Now I wish I could have sold it on eBay for thousands.
Oh my God, yeah.
I could have sent it out to horror conventions and stayed home and just have that body tell the story. Anyway, yeah, it was fun, and I liked it because we shot in Maine. We shot right where
Yeah.
Stephen King lived, and there was some really nice actors in it that I liked. I know I had a bit of a problem because I was also doing a play at the same time, and they went so long shooting one day, we had to cancel the production of the play. It might have even been, I don't know if it was like opening night. It was a mess.
Oh man.
Anyway, because I wasn't released in time to get to the theater.
Yeah.
So we had to cancel the play, but they were really good about it. They were like, so, how many tickets did you sell? What, like, can we reimburse you for how much you might have lost on that night of the, see, there's all these other little stories going on during Storm of the Century. That I remember more than I remember the actual shooting of it or working with dear Craig. Isn't that funny? But yes, they were very nice about, they didn't want to release me, and they wouldn't release me, but they were nice about at least cover the box office loss.
Oh, that's
That's
funny.
so funny. Yeah, and I remember there were really, really nice actors. There was a nice group of people, and we all sat around in this beautiful home, and on the coast of Maine for hours, waiting to shoot. And that we got to do this great sort of Maine accent, yeah, big storm coming, yep, yeah, big storm coming. That was fun. That's all I remember.
That's funny.
I'm glad you liked it, but
I loved it. Yeah, I haven't seen it in years, but I remember.
yeah, I don't know where you could see it now.
Yeah.
You probably dig around, you'll find it.
Yeah, I'm sure YouTube has everything, and if
Yeah.
you could probably rent it or stream it somewhere.
Oh yeah.
But did Stephen King actually show up on the set? Because I know that he didn't. Because I know he was I read Craig Baxley's book, and I met him at one of the Chiller conventions a couple years ago, and he was saying that Stephen King loved him, and those two became really good friends. And he goes, I want you to direct. I don't want anybody else to direct it. So he basically had carte blanche with it. He goes, do whatever you want. And he said he felt like at the time he was so in it. He goes, how am I going to make this happen? And he did.
Oh, well, I wish I'd met him. I'm a big Stephen King fan,
Oh yeah, me too.
and I'm really glad they keep making his movies. There was one I auditioned for too that I didn't get here, and I was really up. They were making I think they were making some kind of remake of Salem's Lot.
Oh yeah, they did. I didn't see it. It just came out. It's on HBO Max.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I didn't get the part, so don't watch it.
Well, here's a good segue. When I interviewed Leslie, we were talking about, like, she said some of the biggest, not really disappointment, because she's also had a great career, but she said that it was between her and the actress that got the part for the movie Amadeus.
Oh,
Yep, she said she was going to have the role of his wife. So
oh my God.
I know. But for you, though, has there been any role that you went up for and you were so close and they didn't pick you and it became a huge hit, like Amadeus?
Yeah. I had a meeting. Okay, let me try and get my mind at oh God. I have to try and get okay, you're gonna have to help me, Sean. The meeting I had at what's the famous hotel? Huh?
Oh no, a famous hotel.
Yeah, but who's the director that I had the meeting with for Brazil?
Oh, Terry Gilliam.
Terry Gilliam.
Oh, yes.
I had a very long audition at the Chateau Marmont with Terry Gilliam for the movie Brazil.
Wow.
It was an incredible afternoon. I remember him saying, get up on the bed and jump on the bed and and just great kind of camaraderie and chat, but I didn't get that role. I don't know if you know the movie Brazil.
I do know of it, and I
Yeah, know
love
of
Terry
it.
Gilliam's work. Yeah, one of my favorite movies. My mind went blank with the title right now. And Sean, you can maybe help me out too. But it stars Robin Williams and Jeff Bridges. Jeff Bridges plays a shock jock DJ. He tells him, and Robin Williams, his wife dies, and then he goes crazy, becomes homeless, and he finds
Fisher King.
Fisher King, thank you. So that's another, like, I love his work. And Fisher King, surprisingly, since I didn't remember the title, is still one of my all-time favorite movies.
I know, but we've seen a lot of movies and we've seen a lot of actors. We have to be forgiven at a certain time not to be able to remember all of them.
Yeah.
And all of the directors' names and all of the actors that were in it. I mean, it's not fair. And I apologize to anyone that I've forgotten to mention you. And I know there's a couple of actors in Storm of the Century that I'd love to mention.
Yeah.
Because I just watched them in something else. Oh well. But it's a lot of memorization. Some people are really good with names, and
I'm not
really. So when when I meet people now, particularly at conventions, I'll come up to them and I'll say, "Hello, I'm Lynne Griffin, and you are," because I know who you are, but I can't remember your name. And I guess, once you get older, you're allowed some eccentricities.
Yeah.
So I can get away with it now because I think I'm just like this, cute little old lady, as opposed to, just a forgetful actor.
I know. Unfortunately, this goes back to my 20s. I've always been forgetful. I remember faces, but I can never remember.
Yeah, absolutely. And I try now. I've been trying this trick of sort of saying, when I meet somebody, I say their name over and over and over again. Now, the thing is, they have the advantage usually of having seen your film and watched the credits.
Exactly.
So they know what your name is.
Mm-hmm.
But, you don't have that same, you may have never seen their movie or whatever. They're being really sweet. Or you may have not ever even met them before, but you don't know where they came from. So it's not fair. They have a definite advantage over us.
Yeah, I think it's funny, and I've never done this, but somebody was saying, if you forget somebody's name, ask them, like, what, your name's really difficult to spell. Can you spell it? But listen though, what if his name is Bob?
Exactly, or like your last name.
Yeah. See, I need to do the follow-up. I forgot about that. That's a good idea.
Yeah. And for years I was mistaken. There was an actress, Canadian actress and playwright in Canada, whose name was Linda Griffiths, who had written a play about Pierre Trudeau and his wife, Margaret. It was called, whatever it was called. Yeah. Anyway, and she was quite famous for that play.
Mm-hmm.
What was it called? Maggie and Pierre. It was called Maggie and Pierre.
Mm-hmm.
And the two of us would get mistaken for one another over and over again because Lynne Griffin and Linda Griffiths could be. But it got to the point where I said to Linda, when people ask me about your play, and I hope you do the same, when they think that you are me or I am you, just accept the fact and say, thank you very much. But I have been in a situation where I'm being interviewed and it's in front of an audience, and somebody will bring up this play and said, "You are such a brilliant playwright."
Thank you.
And so I go, "Yes, thank you. Yes, it was a long time ago." And then I have to hide because then after the Q&A is over, they come after you to try and talk to you about it more. And you have to leave through the back entrance.
That is funny.
Yeah. So, I mean, it does happen, but yes, for years, that was my, what is that light that's coming on me now? This little spotlight. Look at that. That's fun. Where's that coming from?
It's fun watching you as the day progresses.
I know.
Moving the camera around to get the,
I can,
the perfect lighting.
Yeah, I can probably find. Look at that. I can find my light.
All right.
Anyway, yes. So I don't know where we were and how I got off on that.
Well, no, we were talking about names, and two names I don't think anybody's ever going to forget are Dave Thomas and Rick Moranis. Let's talk about Strange Brew. I love that. I rewatched that one again, getting ready for this interview. I saw that years ago. It's another movie, and you played another fun role in that one. You could tell you were having the time of your life, or it seemed like, unless you're a really good actress. But it sounded like you
No,
really
I
had
mean,
fun.
it was great. I mean, the hard part for me was, they were directing it as
Mhm.
well as being in it. So the hard part for me was just trying to keep a straight face because
Yeah,
I was sort of the straight man, right? I was the one trying to forward the plot
yeah,
and keep it moving. And, they would be cracking me up the whole time. And also, that's where I met my
hmm
second husband, Stephen Poster, was DP on that film. So, um, didn't he made me very beautiful in that film. I had really beautiful close-ups.
Oh, yeah, no, you did look good in that
but
movie.
but it wasn't actually, I mean, I guess it was just for him. Maybe he was enjoying his work. I didn't really know at the time that that's where we would end up, and that I would end up moving to LA and living in LA and all that and everything else that happened. Um, but a very, very fun, the story and just the evolution of them, creating these characters because they had to have some Canadian content on their SCTV television series, that they created these two characters that literally took off um,
Yeah,
and became just, well, they were sort of heroes here. I have still a very big light on my chin. Okay, do this. I see the lights coming in the window, like right on top of me. Um, anyway, they were very, I mean, it was all very funny. And oh dear, Angus McInnes just passed away as well.
another one. Yep,
Ah, man, this year has been
I know.
brutal, just brutal. Um,
Unfortunately.
and I had done a con with Angus, and he was at that one that we did when we did the Strange Brew reunion in Florida, and Angus was there. Um, and we were very worried about him then because he's a hemophiliac, and I guess he cut himself. And
Oh,
yeah, anyway, so, but I was very sad to see that. He was my Rosie, my Rosie. Anyway,
yeah.
yes, very fun all the time, fun. I mean, and I was like the female star. I had my own trailer with a fridge and a record player or whatever I had. I don't know, a
Wow.
TV. I had a TV and I was, and most of the time I just sat in my trailer while they were off doing hijinks, and then they'd bring me in to be the straight man. But I mean, they were wonderfully collaborative too,
Yeah,
when
I
there
can
was
tell.
one point when, well, and also I got to be carried by Max von Sydow. How much better does that get? And he was wonderful. He would always have lunch with us, and he would tell us, stories about working on with Ingmar Bergman. I mean, he was so happy. Now I have a great shot of him, a still. You should make notes of these so I remember. So it's the final scene of Curtains, but I have a shot of him uh, in his hoser outfit when he got to dress up in his
Ah,
flannel shirt and tube. And I mean, he was just so thrilled at that. So my story about Max von Sydow is that they were having a production meeting for Strange Brew. And when they were talking about that character, David said, "Oh, wouldn't it be great if we could get Max von Sydow?" And they're all like, "Yeah, Dave, that's a really fun idea." He said, "No, no, I mean, what the hell have I got to lose? Maybe I should just kind of reach out, see if I could reach his agent or whatever." And anyway, so the story goes that he got a phone number thinking it was Max's agent. Uh, but when they connected, it turned out it was actually Max.
wow.
And so Dave, terrified and shuddering, says, I have this role, I have this movie that I want, and I would like you to play the role. Now I can't remember the name of the character that Max played. Anyway, and I go, to think of that. I don't know if this is something I could do anyway. So evidently, they had this conversation. It was like, let me think about it. Evidently, the way it went is that Max hung up the phone, and his kids said to him, "What was that about?" And he said, "Oh, there's these crazy Canadians named Bob Bob and Doug McKenzie want me to be in this movie. I don't. And they went, oh, you have, Dad, you have to do that movie. Those guys are great. You have. So it was Max's kids that convinced him to play the role in Strange Brew.
I love it. And I love that story because a lot of times, like for me, people say, oh, this person will never be on your show. It's like, what's the worst they can say is no. I'm going to go up there and ask. And I've had people say, just because you had the balls to ask me, I'm going to do your show. And I said,
exactly. Okay. And that's what happened with It's Me, Billy. They had the balls to just like write to Olivia. Now, Olivia and I were still like conversing and Facebook friends. So I had sort of broken the ice with Olivia a little bit to actually say, I have her, I have her on Facebook. If you want to connect with her, I can definitely lead you in that direction. But I mean, I remember we were in the car driving somewhere, Sean and I, when Dave McRae called me and said, you're never going to guess this, but I've just Olivia has just signed a letter of intent to be in It's Me, Billy. I was dumbfounded. I was saying, do you know what this is going to do for this? I have any idea.
I know.
So I know she wanted to do it. Bless her heart. And, I think it was at Chiller that it was Dominic that told me that she was very ill. That was the first I'd actually heard of it.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was that that it would be that serious anyway. But yeah, I mean,
I always say it's like
some people like some of the little indie films I've done, and people have reached out, and I said, yeah, of course I want to do it, and they go, really? Why wouldn't I? I mean, as I said, Sean is always trying to get me to learn how to say no.
Yeah.
Because I don't say no, I guess, and often enough. But that's just not my nature. I like the adventure. I like the different things that people that create, and especially like to encourage and support young filmmakers. Because this Richard Bergen, in my opinion, he's going to be the next David Lynch.
Mm-hmm. Yep,
so there, Richard. Now I hope you hear this interview someday, and you'll go, "Oh, wow!" He even sounds a bit and looks a bit like David Lynch.
All right. Well, I'll be definitely keeping an eye on that name.
Yeah.
See what he does.
Yeah. And the movie Fang.
I can't wait. I'm sure you know who Tom Savini is. He's a makeup artist, but he made a comment. I met him at a convention too. I met so many great people at these conventions, but he said that he did a movie for this local independent company, and he goes, you never know. He goes, look at Quentin Tarantino came from a video store. He goes, you never know who's going to be the next Quentin Tarantino. So I'll help these kids out. I'll see what I can do with them. So there's people like you, like Tom Savini, that are willing to do that. And next thing you know, 20 years later, I remember him when he was this little kid that was just making these low budget movies on an 8mm camera.
Yeah. I mean, that's the way even Spielberg started.
Exactly. Yeah.
So don't say no.
No, never say. And Sean, if you make her say no, wait until after she comes to Connecticut to do the screening of Curtains.
Yeah, right.
After that, she can say no to anything else.
No, he hasn't really managed to persuade me that much.
Oh, thank you.
I think there was maybe, I think there was a commercial audition once where I was reading this, I was going, okay, I'll audition for this. And then they said, well, but you have to wear a satellite dish on your head. And I said, no, maybe I made a mistake. Maybe I should have done it. But yeah, you have some kind of image of yourself that you'd maybe like to protect a little bit.
That's funny.
So a satellite dish on my head was not particularly.
Yeah.
The best look. I'll appear with a plastic bag over my head, but not a satellite dish.
Well, it's funny, getting back to Max von Sydow, I was watching clips of you, and I saw you on a game show called Definition. And the reason I bring that up was that he asked you about that, and you said that you've been carried off on stage by Peter Ustinov, you've been carried off by Max von Sydow, and I guess it's funny because at that time you said your dream was to be carried off by Martin Sheen. Has that changed?
Oh, wow. Well,
I guess so.
I think it's more now Anthony Hopkins.
Ah, okay.
Martin Sheen, I had a crush on back then. I think I'm not really sure why, and I think he was tremendous in The West Wing, but not so much now. I think it was that movie he did with Sissy Spacek that Martin Sheen did, and because I think this is pre-apocalypse now.
Yeah, it must have been. It
It
seemed
would have
like it.
been pre, yeah. So it must have been. I don't know whether it was called Badlands or something like that. And it was, and he was sort of, and he was also like my mom loved Martin Sheen.
Uh,
We like, but it was when he was a young man, and he was sort of kind of doing the James Dean thing. I
uh,
think he was sort of following in that footstep, and but yeah, I don't think Martin could probably carry me now anyway, but I don't think it. And poor like I adore Anthony Hopkins and I love that he's a Facebook friend. And I wrote to him because I'm so upset his house was lost in the
uh,
Palisades fire. Because he composed music. He composed beautiful
yeah.
orchestral pieces on the piano that's gone and all
Uh,
that stuff. Um, I was, if you want to know other crushes, I also had a big crush on Daniel Day-Lewis for a long time.
uh,
Um, but now I kind of like Colin Farrell, but mostly because watching him in The Penguin.
I would have known it was him unless I read that.
Oh no, but
He
he's
is.
brilliant.
Yes.
Brilliant. And I like now when he says if he wins an award, he says, well, I guess it's prosthetics for me from now on. He's gonna want to. You're still hot, Colin. You're still hot. And I also like my other crush is Colin Firth. Okay, that's it. And
Okay.
Sean Sullivan, of course.
Of course, you have to save the best for last. Sean
Yeah,
Sullivan.
exactly.
You have a short list.
The one I landed.
Yep, exactly. That's all that matters, Sean. You're
Yeah,
with her. Nobody. Anthony Hopkins is not with her. Colin
yeah,
Firth isn't with her. You got her.
yeah, yeah,
You know
yeah.
what's funny? I didn't realize this. I mean, I found out more about Strange Brew reading about it. Was that it was filmed in that underwater scene was filmed in Esther Williams' tank, an MGM. So
That's
I
right.
remember those. I remember those musicals. Watching Esther Williams swim all over the place.
That's pretty cool, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I was in Debbie Reynolds' dressing room,
Oh wow.
which was very posh. So yes, that was like all filmed on the MGM lot, that the underwater stuff. Yeah. Of course, they said they threw me in the water with a wool sweater, heavy woolen pants, big boots, the whole thing, and said, oh, there'll be like a guy down there, buddy, breathing with you. And all you have to do is signal if it's hard and waving and waving. This guy, like, he's not coming over to me. It's like, oh my God. I think some of it is actually my stunt double because I think I kind of gave up after a while. I was just sinking like a stone with these clothes on.
Well, I guess they remembered Black Christmas. Said, "Oh,
Yeah.
she can hold her breath for a long time."
There's another way I possibly could have died in a film.
Wow,
But
I know.
real. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you didn't. I'm glad you
Yeah.
survived.
Yeah.
Well, there's a couple other movies I want to talk about, but before we do that, we talked about you make the ornaments. You also became a great visual artist as well. You do, and you were inspired by Nancy Loomis. You're a good friend. So I want to talk about you collect old pieces of wood, bottle caps to make great art, and then do you sell them online?
Yeah.
Oh, I gotta check that
I
out.
actually have a little video of them. A friend of mine made a little video. It's that just shows, probably about 20 different pieces that, some of them have already sold, but I can send you the link to that video.
Oh, please do.
You probably like to see what it is that I do. And I work with images like Day of the Dead images and Frida Kahlo images.
Oh.
But yeah, found objects on raw wood, collage, assemblage. Yeah. And I did probably about, I don't know, 30 to 35 drawings of the characters from Slaughter Brothers Dime Circus as well.
Yeah.
So, and some of them are on the Indiegogo campaign.
I will definitely be checking that out.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. But this is sort of later in life. I mean, you know, I was told, in school that I couldn't write or draw, which is always really, yeah, I was told that I didn't have an ability for either of those things. But so later in life, I said, yeah, to hell with it. They were wrong.
Well, I love that saying, success is the best revenge.
Yes,
Prove
exactly.
them wrong.
Exactly, exactly. And also I think I was very when I lived, in LA, and we spent a lot of time obviously because Sean was from San Diego and we were on the Mexican border. There was so much influence of that culture, and being right across the border and being able to go into Mexico and
Hmm.
see the colors, the culture, the aesthetic of that really turned me on to my visual sense of wanting to pursue visual art. And just the color palette was so extraordinary.
Yeah.
And also the Day of the Dead was such an extraordinary kind of um, a cultural phenomenon. And
Hmm.
I mean, we did a little show on the Day of the Dead in an art gallery, Sean and I, and uh, I sold some of my work there. But yeah, it's been really something that I'm proud that I finally just said, let me just try this. And you have time on your hands between gigs, and what better way? I mean, I'm always got like I've got another project that I'm working with my friend who's sort of my non-biological adopted daughter, that we're doing a project about the surrealists and Dadaism. And
Ah,
so
I would love that.
we're writing, yeah, we don't know what it's going to be called yet, but I've been sending her prompts every day and she's been writing back and forth, and we've been doing it like over the internet. Um, so yes, there's always that other side of something that I kind of, because I've always been creative with my hands and wanting
Hmm.
to make things, and dolls and sewing and needlepoint and my crocheted blankets, which you see everywhere behind me.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it was just an extension of that, and it really sort of blossomed, and mainly because we went to this gallery to see another friend's artwork, and the person who ran the gallery sort of said to me, looked at me and said, "Are you an artist as well?" And of course I went, "Yeah." And Sean went, "Oh yes, she is." Sean, yeah, my promoter. Anyway, so she said, "Well, send me some things." And then I ended up doing show, and I usually every year I put one of my pieces in a show at their gallery. And yeah, it's good. It's really good. And they also, because you're dealing with other artists, they give you like themes and things that you can work with. They say, our show this year is going to be about illusion or something like that, and you grab that idea and create a piece based on that.
I love it. Well,
Yeah.
you mentioned downtime. I don't think there's ever a downtime for you. I want to give you an example. Because COVID, when everything was shut down, you're not making movies. What did Lynne Griffin decide to do? Let's do a radio play.
Yeah. Well, that was Dear Sean. And the
Yeah.
thing is, when Slaughter Brothers was originally created, he wrote a character for me of a clown, but the clown was silent.
Hmm.
But when we got to creating it as a radio play, I go, well, no, I'm screwed. You're not going to be able to do anything with me if it's a radio play. So then we decided, or I don't know whether it came up with both of us, that I would create this other language, this kind of Gramalot, it's called, where the clown would speak. And it's like literally, you don't really hear the direct words, but because the intent is so strong, you get it.
Hmm.
But we also made her a little malevolent. So
Yeah. Just
she's a little evil at the same
just a little.
time, a little manipulative, a little wrong, you know.
Wouldn't have
but
it any other way.
very sweet with the clown nose and the rosy cheeks. I don't know if you've ever seen any of those pictures I posted. I can send you a picture of Daphne, the clown mother. But so it evolved as a radio, my voice evolved as a radio play. So then when we again started to stage it, well, the world exploded.
Yeah.
I had so many ideas of what I wanted to do and bring on, and I had all my little dead baby dolls, and it just like, oh my God. I don't know. I probably should have Sean tell you the actual, story of Slaughter Brothers, but it's basically a circus that has been going on so long and is kind of getting decrepit and whatever. And the boss is taking over and firing people, and there's only a few of us kind of struggling left to try and keep this circus afloat. And then there is this insect called a strepsiptera.
Mhm.
Anyway, Sean then created that the leading lady of this circus morphs into, so great body horror, morphs into this man-eating bug.
Well, I get to hear more about this. I love it already.
And the circus kind of limps along as more catastrophes are happening. and I mean, he probably has like a great 25 word précis, because it's really quite hard to describe, but it goes very, very dark. And but the leading lady and my character survive. Nobody else does. But talk about female empowerment. The two females in the play actually make it to the end. Anyway, yeah, you'll definitely have to, and we can send you a bunch of stuff. And if you go on our website,
Okay.
which is, oh God,
We'll make sure that we have it on the screen.
babymonster.ca, I think, or babymonster.productions. Anyway,
We'll get it. We'll
website,
make sure it's on the screen so people know where to find it, because I want to check that out.
Yeah, we'll have to try and figure out all these things, like tell the website address. And I was trying, do you want to come in and do your 25 word précis of Slaughter Brothers?
Oh, okay.
Okay, here he is.
Hello.
Hello. Welcome back.
So I'm in the sun.
Now you're in the light.
So Slaughter Brothers Dime Circus starts out as a satirical comedy about a failing sideshow circus. And then it jackknives into a horror revenge nightmare, where the good are rewarded and the bad are punished, but no one comes out clean. Everyone goes through quite a journey, and it worked on stage, and we got some lovely notices about it and stuff. And so, and one of the things people said was that it was kind of cinematic for a stage play. And I think unconsciously I was thinking of a future as a film for this crazy little project.
And tell them how the idea came to you.
Oh yeah, I got Giardia, the waterborne parasite, from fishing in the Ottawa River, and I was really sick on and off for like a month. And when I was really sick, I was having these sort of like vaguely hallucination type dreams. And it was like, what if I could actually have a conversation with this parasite and I could have a breakup scene? And which I actually wrote. I wrote a breakup scene between someone and the parasite that had attacked them. That didn't become part of the play, but the idea is basically looking at how humans are sort of parasites in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. And that the character who has sort of the magic powers in the story decides one way to deal with the people he doesn't like is to turn them into what they basically are already. And he turns them into what are called strepsiptera, the parasitical winged insect.
Inspiration comes from everywhere.
I know. It's just like the worst moments can give you the best gifts. I don't know, but I don't need to go through it again though.
Well, I'm glad. Yeah. No.
Once is more than enough.
Maybe you
got
could
one
just
good.
like have a hangnail, and that brings
Doesn't
out.
do it. Doesn't do it.
You know, you got one good play out of it. Hopefully, a great movie. Move on.
There you go.
Exactly. Try another way of developing a project after this.
You suffer for your art. I respect that.
I did
Exactly.
literally.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. And so did Lynne, because she had to live with me while I was new.
Yeah,
What's funny?
but then this great part came for me, and I discovered my inner clown, which obviously had been lurking behind some closed door for years, but all of a sudden she exploded.
She ate everything on the stage she possibly could. She took over. When she was on stage, it just became like, I think we have found something for Lynne that she's very happy with.
Oh my God.
It was just like, oh my God. Yeah. She's yeah. It wasn't really a big surprise because I knew the sense of humor of this person, but but there's a very specific kind of, the kind of clown, adult-oriented clown characters are a very specific kind of creation. And it was just like, it's like, what are I guess lizards, aren't they born like fully developed?
I think
Yeah.
so. I think I heard that.
This clown was like fully developed. It came out of its egg, and she was running around already fully revealed.
Yep.
Wow.
So there you go.
So like as soon as I was born, I could run.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
You're like Benjamin Button.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah.
Well. Yeah.
Kinda. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Oh, I cannot.
But I like thinking of myself as a lizard.
You're the Lizard King, Lizard Queen. I'm sorry, Lizard Queen.
Lizard queen.
the Canadian clown lizard queen.
Well, I don't know if you heard the conversation. I said I would love to be a victim in your movie. So I said I could play a good victim.
Yeah, yeah, we can have everybody.
Yeah, I think there's going to be some
this
cameos.
This is in Grandma with Knives.
Oh, and Grandma with Knives. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
That I have all the people that I take down to the basement and cut into pieces.
Yeah, because there will be some that'll be like more
Wow.
longer scenes.
Now look at the light on your face.
I know I've got
really
these.
Cool. Look at that. You are totally surreal.
I know.
Oh, now it's gone. And like
And
that,
it's like it's gone.
your spotlight was taken.
You're a regular Copperfield over there.
Indeed, indeed.
Oh, it's back again. Okay.
Now you look like an angel.
Oh, now you look like a skull. Woo.
I'm many faceted.
I don't know if you're seeing this, Richard, but it's wild.
Oh no, I can see
Yeah,
it.
he can see it.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
speaking
it's too much on my eyes, man. That is hard.
Okay.
well, speaking of many, did he leave already?
No,
he's
I'm
still here.
Right here.
I was going to say, speaking of many facets, I want to see if I got this correctly. I heard a story that you do a Christmas Carol and you play every character.
Every character except Scrooge.
Except Scrooge. All right.
It's a 2-person Christmas Carol. Yeah, we did the original production. It's actually having a life in various places right now in other productions. But yeah, it's one character plays Scrooge all the way through, and the other character plays 25 characters. And I could not say no. It was just like, this is impossible. We have to see if we can do this.
And obviously you've been doing it. And so how long did
was-
it take you to memorize all those lines? I can't imagine.
It was evolving, wasn't it?
Yeah, because we went through a period of like we were doing like staged readings, and it started to kind of go in on its own because we were doing like, before we got into real rehearsals, we were kind of doing it for like in staged readings.
And we were going through Scrooges like, water. We kept losing our Scrooge.
Yeah.
And then we finally found one that was like fat. And we actually had one at one point who was really kind of, what would you call
Jesse?
Yes.
Jesse
Was
is a real clown. He's
Yeah.
a punk
Great
clown.
clown.
He toured with Cirque du Soleil for on and off for 2 of their seasons, like in Europe. Extraordinarily funny and fast, but definitely a punk-oriented clown. Our Christmas Carol comedy is sort of family oriented, so he was kind of taking liberties at times, which the writer in particular, and Lynn as the director.
Yeah.
I mean, I was cracking up because I was on stage with him, but they were just going, "We're going to get sued if you just keep doing this with." And there's kids in the audience.
Yeah, when he started talking about Grinder, like Scrooge on Grinder. I mean, no.
Yeah, that came flying up. It was kind of like a punk Robin Williams playing Scrooge.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Like, God knows what you're going to hear.
And we didn't know, like, you know, when he was in front of the audience,
He got
what
going.
he was going to do. And we had, at one point, we had an inflatable turkey that he threw and hit this woman in the audience. It's like lovely little blue-haired ladies in the audience.
He punched it at her at almost point blank range.
Took her out.
And just like,
And I'm trying to control this and going, what do I do? I mean, he's just, because he would make up shit.
he was incapable of just like sticking to the
man,
script.
no, yeah.
So that was awesome, but it did not last. So there is a more,
we had a history of Scrooges.
but a more restrained, but just
Yes,
as funny.
wonderful
guy.
actor.
Yeah.
And and who knows, we may do it again. We don't
We
know.
may. We may.
You know, it is having a life. It's been playing in some other theaters, even in the US. So you know, who knows? You know, we always have several irons in the proverbial fire.
I love it. Like I said, there's never a downtime for you two. There's always something going on.
Not really. I mean, except when that happens, and it's just
I said we're always in bed by 10.
Yeah, I was gonna say maybe up until 9:59 p.m. There's never a downtime.
No,
Yeah.
but then after that,
But then at the same time, at 2:00 in the morning, it's like you get an idea or something, and I'm like half awake, and it'll turn into an hour like thing. So the going to sleep does not mean like a full night's sleep necessarily.
Yeah.
You know, the day just is ongoing, and there are little breaks, little naps.
Yeah, exactly.
I am in full support of a good power nap. So.
Here.
Absolutely.
Totally.
Yeah.
Another thing I wanted to talk about, I'm not sure if you were part of this, Sean, but I know you definitely were, Lynn, was because my editor is John Bristol. He owns Elmwood Productions. He makes movies with puppets. He does horror movies, comedies, dramas. And I know you did a TV series, Puppets Who Kill, which I want to hear more about that.
Well, we both did.
We both did.
Yeah, that's why I figured that you were part of it too.
I
want to
can't
talk about that because
about mine.
As he's editing this, he's going to be watching this. So I want to talk about that because I'm actually helping him write. He did a horror movie with puppets called Head. I'm helping write part 3 right now.
I mean, we adore puppet work.
We
like
need
all kinds of puppet
We
work.
need him.
I mean, puppet work is the
Yeah.
shit. Yeah. Mine, I got to play. I got to assassinate the CEO of the Canadian Broadcasting Company in my episode of Puppets Who Kill. Puppets Who Kill had a dark edge. It was a good show. It was a good show because all of the puppets were in a halfway home, and then the human guy who co-created it, Dan Redican, was like their sponsor. It's like they were out of prison and being worked back into society. These puppets, and so they were funny, and they were kind of dark.
Yeah, I love that.
It was
my favorite qualities in a person.
Me too, but it was a dream show for a couple seasons.
Oh yeah. And you know, that's why, you know, we look at people like you, Richard, and we say you are from our planet.
I am.
You know, or universe. There are certain few people that you just get it right away.
You say the right things.
And there's other people who think you're completely like to be avoided.
Most people.
Yeah. Those are the people I want to avoid because they're too boring for me. I want to have some fun.
Exactly. But
it's true.
True. we want to meet your friend who works with puppets for sure. Wow.
That's very cool.
What was that?
It's very cool. It's very cool that he's specifically working with puppets. Well, that's what Guillermo del Toro is saying. He's going to Frankenstein might be his last live action film.
Wow.
But he at this point he prefers working with puppets. It's just doesn't have to deal with actors, you know. Actors, don't get me started.
Oh my God, yeah, that's another whole that's another 3 hours.
I love that you're working on a puppet movie that's called Head.
Oh yeah,
That's like hysterical
is
to
the-
me.
the
Right
third-
away, my imagination goes wild.
Yeah, he has a YouTube channel. I'm going to send you the link, and I'm
Oh,
going to
great.
have him get in touch with you because I know that
Oh, great.
he's from our planet too. You'll like him.
Right on.
Cool.
And you know
Well,
what?
he must be.
Yeah, what you said about the about you being able to kill people with puppets and everything. What I love about that, it reminds me of what Rod Serling said, because he said with Twilight Zone he loved having aliens because they could say things that Republicans or Democrats can't. With puppets, you could do the same thing because actually we'll
Exactly.
get canceled now. They're going to get fired. They'll never be able to work. But with a puppet, hey, it wasn't me that said it. It was the puppet.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
also think that's true of clowns.
Yes,
Or at least my clown.
I want to meet your clown. I cannot wait.
Yeah,
I want to hear more about that.
But yeah,
You
I
do.
think
You
I
do wanna
could
meet
get
them.
away with like swearing and doing
inappropriate
because
behavior.
you couldn't
Yeah.
really tell whether I'd said those words because they were garbled. But
Right.
you certainly felt the intent of it being
You knew exactly
a
what you were
dirty
saying.
word or a swear word or an insult. Yeah. Oh, it's cool. That's cool.
Well, speaking of that, I met Dawn Wells, who played Marianne in Gilligan's Island,
Yes.
and she was telling me that she said when she worked with Jim Backus said whenever you hear Mr. Magoo mumble, he is saying the meanest, nastiest,
Oh,
dirtiest
nice.
things ever.
Wow.
I love that. Oh, that is so
We're
cool.
gonna have to watch
Watch
it and
some
like
old Mr. Magoo.
and slow it down like they do, when they're trying to like the police try and listen to
Or like
a
to
tape,
break it down.
break it
Yeah.
down to hear what. Yeah.
If you
Cool.
find out what it is, let me know because I want to do the same thing. Because speaking of Christmas Carol, I love Mr. Magoo as a Christmas Carol.
Me too. I grew up with that
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people. I mean, that's a lesser known one. For
Yeah.
a lot of people. But yes, with Magoo coming in to do his Broadway show at the beginning of it, yeah.
Whenever I start saying it's like razzleberry dressing, and somebody goes, "Oh, Mr. Magoo's," and other people, what the hell are you singing?
Exactly. Well, yeah, literally that phrase, that's the the yes or no is like,
Yep.
if someone knows it, they really know it. If they
Yep.
don't know it, they totally don't know it. Yeah.
And those are the people that don't belong on our planet.
No,
Right.
no, they don't. They don't get to
Banish
join
them.
they don't get to join the club.
No, go back to Earth.
And staying on
Yeah.
the same theme of Christmas Carol, you mentioned it before earlier too. My favorite of all time is Alistair Sim. I think he does the
Yeah.
best Scrooge. I
Me too.
love his
Yeah,
version of the Scrooge.
absolutely. And his morning after,
Yeah.
Yes.
and that was always really hard to create, to try and get an actor to go that direction where it's just so ridiculously joyful. And I would always say,
Yeah.
because I
It's
don't
tricky.
like to say to an actor, well, you should watch this other actor play that role, because I want them to bring their uniqueness to it. I
Yeah.
don't want them to imitate somebody. But I mean, I don't think you get any better than Alistair Sims
No,
as far as Scrooge goes.
It is just demented enough.
Yeah.
It's like it's on the verge of going too far, but he never quite goes there. But it is just like, it is so off the deep end, and it's hysterical every time you see it.
Yeah.
It's just hysterical.
Which makes me think of, which we just watched again, Young
I
Frankenstein,
love that movie.
where we just watched it again because Gene Wilder, we go, nobody would believe you could go that big on film and get away with it.
Oh yeah.
But he's brilliant at it. And
So good.
everybody in the film is
Oh, yeah.
brilliant.
Well, it's
Yeah.
like Marty Feldman, Abby Normal. I mean, the whole
I know.
movie is
It is. Yeah, it
And
is one
Cloris Leachman.
one
Oh my
quote
God.
after another.
and
Yes.
and Terry Garr. I mean, everybody in it is great. Peter Boyle. I mean,
Right.
it's just like one wonderful moment after another. I mean, I make a list of what I consider my perfect films,
It's on it.
and Young Frankenstein is definitely
It's
on
on it.
it. Yeah.
and don't forget Gene Hackman. Hey, would you like some coffee?
Oh,
Oh.
Gene Hackman. I mean, my God.
One scene
Yeah.
steals the
Yeah.
entire. Yeah, it steals everything that's not nailed down.
That is, I think.
Are you ready for your soup?
I think for me, that and History of the World Part 1 are two of my favorite all-time Mel Brooks movies.
Mel
I
Brooks.
love those. I can quote every
Yeah.
line from those movies.
I know that there's something to be said if you can really quote it. It
Yeah.
means it really means something, because it's like not only was it good, but it's like it's stuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
mean, movies
But
came out in the 70s and 80s, and I'm still quoting it.
I know.
but you're definitely finding out what our filmography is, the things that we like to watch. Like,
Yes.
okay, Blue Velvet, Twin Peaks, Young Frankenstein.
And the great part is that everything you mentioned, I love.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I've seen thousands of times.
yeah, exactly.
That's
But
the best.
I think there's some kind of DNA
Yeah.
that some of us share, and when you find it and you recognize it in someone else, you're like, hey, this is like shorthand. We don't need to even actually
I
talk
know.
about it. We just know.
Well, that's why when you and I said we've been trying to get together for the last couple of months to get this interview out, I said there's no way I'm giving up on this interview. I cannot wait to speak with Lynne. And then doing my research, I said, oh my God, I have to have Sean on the show. Now it's great. I have the both of you at the same time.
Now you have both. Now you have both. But you can do a more in-depth one.
Oh yeah, I will.
We could
Because
do
you'll have a lot.
Yeah.
You'll have a lot. I don't know what else there is you want to talk about it, but we're coming up to 2 hours.
Oh, 3 hours.
Oh,
Wait,
really?
No,
No!
3 hours.
45.
It only
Yeah.
felt like
3 hours.
It only felt like 2.
See, time flies when you're having fun. I'm going to bring up a couple more things, and I promise.
Okay.
One, I saw this movie, and I read, and there's like, don't watch the trailer; it gives the whole movie away. It was a movie that you worked with James Bond, Daniel Craig, and Rachel Weisz. It was called Dreamhouse.
God. Yeah.
It was such a great movie, and I was like, "What the hell?" And they're right. If you see the trailer, it basically gives away the whole movie.
It
So I didn't know.
does.
I went in there blind. It was really good.
What was that crazy Irishman director?
Jim.
Crazy.
Oh damn.
Jim. Look it up. Google.
Jim Sheridan.
Jim Sheridan.
Okay.
Crazy man. He was as crazy as a bed bug.
He's Irish. What do you expect?
Yeah, but I mean, some of the things he was asking us to do, and like Daniel Craig, well, okay, so here's the interesting story, because Jim Sheridan said to me, I don't know who to cast as the female lead. I'm thinking of Rachel Weisz or now another anyway, and I Jennifer.
Not Connolly.
Jennifer Connelly.
Oh, okay.
Wow. Okay.
We have a winner.
And he stopped me in the staircase one day and he said, I can't decide which one of these actresses should play that part. And I looked at him and I said, oh, definitely Rachel Weisz, because she's got a real kind of, I said, Jennifer Connelly is a little cold, I think, for that part. Anyway, so I am responsible for the marriage of Daniel Craig and Rachel Weisz.
Yeah, you did.
Wow.
Unbelievable. I just watched a little interview with Naomi Watts talking about David Lynch and Mulholland Drive. But yes, it was so wild because we were brought into that film and we sat around for weeks, sort of before we started filming, doing this sort of like taking the script apart. And the poor writer, he was just like beside himself. I don't know whether, I mean, he was in on this and everybody
became part of the writing staff.
Yeah, we became part of the writing staff. And also we were highly critical of some stuff. And this poor writer was sitting in there kind of trying to defend his ideas and hold on to, and we were just like, no. And Jim was like, no, I don't like it. I don't like it either. Toss it up. Anyway, it was a crazy, crazy experience. And it was like that in the filming too. Jim Sheridan would just all of a sudden like turn to an extra and say, here, I'm going to give you a speech to say. And this poor extra would be like, yeah. So you
and the union reps are going, wait, this guy's not even in the union.
And then of course, you see the film and it's not in the film. And he was always getting us to do stuff that then he wouldn't use.
That's funny.
And also, I kind of think he just made us feel like we were in an insane asylum the whole time.
Yeah.
That's what it felt like. And it felt like that. And
as it should be. Yeah.
Well, I have to say, when I saw the movie and the ending, I did not expect that. I didn't know where it was going, and I love the fact. I love movies like that. I'm like, I'm trying to figure it out, and then when that happened, I said,
yes,
always
the best.
That's the way all movies should leave you. Like, well, never give too much away. Like
Exactly.
always leave it like I love a cliffhanger, a good cliffhanger, and
Mhm.
I don't need to have everything resolved. And
David Lynch.
there you go. Yeah, that's classic. That's the best.
We've
Yeah, it
I
was a strange experience. I had a strange experience auditioning for him too, because there wasn't really much text. So he just wanted us to just sort of chat. And I remember at one point, I think he sort of said something to me like, seduce me. So I, like, and there's like a table with the casting director and, the
Yep.
guy filming it and whatever. I jumped up on the table in front of him, and I don't know. I don't know. It was just like the weirdest,
Wow.
because I was in awe of him anyway, because I thought he was like a incredible filmmaker.
Yeah.
I didn't realize he was quite as mad. He was quite as mad man. He was like really quite like, yeah, you never knew what you were going to walk into on the set. And he would say, okay, you're going to stand behind, I'm going to put you behind bars today.
Oh my God.
Okay. And what? So so you go along with it. I mean, there was a lot of really crazy stuff. I remember. I
Yeah.
didn't get to be with Rachel or Naomi very much, except we were all in this like long script session
Hmm.
together. And I just remember the girl whose name is Sarah Gadon. I don't know if you know her from she's actually done quite well in films since then. But she was like the ringleader. She would just keep coming out. And she was like a young woman. She just kept coming up with ideas. And this poor writer's scenes were getting tossed out. And she would say, well, I think that, and we'd be looking at her because I don't know how maybe if she was in her 20s at the time. And there's all these like actors sitting around. I mean, and not a lot of them had a lot to say, except maybe me and Sarah. I don't know why we felt we had the right even to tell him who he should cast. I don't know why we felt. I guess he made us feel that way. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Well, I guess.
But I feel like I had some kind of collaborative hand, whether it ended up in the film or not.
Yeah. Well, whatever you did, and if it helped, it was a great movie. I enjoyed it immensely. I didn't realize there was all this craziness behind it. And has he done
Yeah,
a lot of other movies? I've never heard the name before. Jim Sheridan. Has he done a lot of other movies?
My Left Foot.
Oh, never mind. Sorry about that. I do know him. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
I've seen that movie. Daniel Day-Lewis. Great movie.
yeah, yeah,
Okay, so
yeah,
I stand corrected. I just
yeah.
maybe I didn't connect the names. I haven't seen that movie again in years either. So
Yeah, and
okay.
there's another one that he did too called, I think, Michael Collins or something
Oh
like.
yeah.
Like they
Yep.
were like Irish films.
Yep. No,
I
I
mean, I
saw that
think
one too.
Dreamhouse was one of his first sort of attempts.
In the Name of the Father?
In the
Yep.
Name of the Father.
That's
Did
all
he do
right.
Michael Collins too?
I don't know, but he did My Left Foot.
Oh yeah, well we said My Left Foot is pretty definitive, and
Yeah.
that's how I knew him. And I just went,
Yeah.
this guy's like a genius, and that performance he got out of Daniel Day-Lewis
Yeah.
was incredible.
Well, he's another method actor. I mean, he goes so
Yeah.
deep in the character. I read an interview with him, or I saw him on some show where he said, like, when he did Lincoln, he goes, "I don't want anybody to address me by my name. Call
Yes,
me Abe,"
exactly.
throughout the whole movie. And it's just like with Last of the Mohicans, he learned how to make a canoe, and
Yeah.
so he really gets into his role.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of, I'm kind of taking a page from that book. I kind of like that
Yeah.
as a method. Um, because Meryl Streep was sort of like that too.
Oh yeah.
Although she had a lovely soft spot. We did this like Disease of the Week movie. And she was playing the mother of this child, and I was playing just the secretary in like Johns Hopkins Hospital, that I actually had to blow her off in the scene. And anyway, we were sitting there all day long. The scene was taking forever, and she was carrying this wonderful child. And at one point, I don't know how long I'd been sitting behind the desk, but the craft service came by with a tray of like smoothies. And of course, just walked right by me. And Meryl looked over and said, "You have been sitting behind that desk all day long. I bet you would like a smoothie. I'm going to go and get you one." And she went to the craft guy. She got me a smoothie and gave it to me.
Yep.
I never forgot that. Also, we were shooting in a hospital, like a real hospital, Princess Margaret Hospital. And everybody who came up to her who asked for an autograph, I mean, she was signing people's casts because they had broken arms and broken legs. She signed every autograph seeker that came up to her, and was just such a mensch. Just gorgeous. But yeah, but does she had a tendency to stay in character too. But I kind of like that. And particularly if you're doing something that has a dialect, to not drop it, but to be like that the whole time, I think is very helpful to keep you in the mindset and not kind of go. I always heard stories about Larry Olivier, who would be in the wings kind of chatting up, with the stage manager, blah, 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 whatever. And then he literally like cross, what do you call the cross the wings and literally turn into, whatever, King Lear or Hamlet. But he would goof around all the time when he wasn't on stage. Like he wouldn't stay in character at all.
Yeah.
That's like amazing. It's amazing to me.
Yeah.
Of course, I'm a bit of that too.
Yeah. Whatever you're doing is working. So
Okay.
I would just stick with what you're doing now. Sometimes it might work for some movies, be a method actress.
You have to size up, you have to really feel what the atmosphere is and how much joking around you can get to do, or how serious some people are. And, you also want to be very respectful of other actors who have very different process to your own and maybe don't want to joke around. I definitely like the lighter kind of way of keeping things as, light and fun as much, especially if you're doing something really, really serious and dark. So I just did, there's this John Wayne Gacy mini series that's happening that I did a little part on, and the guy playing John Wayne Gacy is fabulous. But, you could see that, when you're cast as someone like that, like you're cast as a serial killer, we all know the depravity of this person. But he had found such a wonderful lightness in the character that when obviously he isn't off killing some young man, he's actually quite like a respected and well-received member of the community. Like we all really liked him, and we could joke with him, and he was funny, and it was like, wow, I think this is going to be a really interesting take on this character.
Yeah. Because
he had a lovely sort of jovial way that I mean, maybe that's the way he seduced all those young men and, whatever. And then again, the horrible part that he liked to dress up as a clown.
Yeah.
What a sick guy. Jeez. And all his clown pictures all over the walls. I see. The other thing I love to do is research. I loved go as much as I couldn't watch too much about the real John Gacy. There was some like background stuff on him, which was just wonderful. That, it's just like these personalities that you kind of try and peg as just being really dark and horrendous actually have really other side to them that's very kind of just sort of alarming and enlightening, that they can be such a different, they can be such a split personality.
Yeah. Almost every show you see about serial killers, like, oh, he was the nicest guy.
Never
quiet
suspect.
Neighbor, never bothered anybody. Everybody loved him. He was so affable. So yeah, it doesn't sound, it's not surprising to me that you're telling me the story about John Wayne Gacy, because almost everything I've seen about killers, they always say the same thing. I never would have suspected. I mean, like you said, though, that's probably how he was able to lure his victim.
Yes, exactly. Yep. See, that's my idea for the serial killer grandma.
I love it.
In space. Would you say no to a cup of tea and cookies with me? No.
Even if I knew you were a serial killer, I cannot say no to you. I would still come in and have those cookies. I don't care. That's how charming you are. If you had the knife in your hand with blood dripping. All right, so where do we get the cookies?
Great. But I love that, that there can be, in every character you play, there can be both sides if you find them. And I guess that was what was really fun about finding a clown character that could be malevolent, that didn't have to be like, oh la 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 la, I mean, but that actually could be,
Yeah.
you know, that it was like, could be. But I think that's true of all of us. I think obviously, you know, we have, as I said, the one side that we present to people, and then there's always, you know, several other sides that we may try and keep hidden,
Yeah.
but that are like invaluable as an actor to
Mhm.
tap on when you have to, and make a character much more interesting, because you're not sure. I think that's one of the things that I loved about Curtains too, that it
Yeah.
was, you could never tell, you know, that, and you don't use, you don't do a tell as much as you can. It's like when we were talking about seeing people who play drunk on film,
Mhm.
and that the best ones are the ones that completely play against it, because in life what you're trying to do is pretend you're sober,
Yeah.
and so it's not all, yeah, well, I'm drunk, I'm, look at me, I'm acting drunk, but that it's like that they're trying to suppress that and let it just sneak out a little bit, so that you go, oh, that, I mean, really great drunk performances I really love, people who can play that on that really fine line of not overdoing it.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you say, I read an interview with Val Kilmer when he played Jim Morrison in The Doors. He said the
Oh
hardest thing, because he did all his own singing, he said trying to sing The Doors drunk, pretending I'm drunk, was the hardest thing as an actor to ever do.
yeah, I'm sure it was. Okay, so before any more time, we have to go and see A Complete Unknown. Have you seen it
Oh, I
yet?
have. I love that movie.
Yeah,
Such a,
we keep saying we're going to, but it's like been
yeah.
below frigid temperatures here, that
Yeah.
you walk out and you can hardly breathe and your eyebrows freeze.
Yeah.
So we've kind of gone, let's just stay home and watch, you know, whatever we can watch on television.
Yeah.
But that's, I mean, I have to see that within the next week.
It's
Um,
definitely worth it.
yeah.
Timothy Chalamet does a phenomenal job as
This
Bob
is,
Dylan.
yeah, this is, I mean, I can't wait. I can't wait. I'm
Yeah.
really excited about it. Yeah, so good. And
Have you?
then, you know, we always at this time of year, we go, okay, we've only got a few weeks. We have to go and see all the Oscar nominated films. And of course, now there's 10 of them, for
Oh, I
God's
know.
sake.
Yeah.
Yeah, we used to be able to get in all five, but now I don't know whether we'll get in 10 before the day. But anyway.
Have you ever played a character that was a real person and you met them, you met her, so you can study her and find out more about her and to get her mannerisms and her personality down?
I don't know that I have with someone who's still alive.
Okay.
And that's why I go, like, I'm very fond of research,
Hmm.
but they've always been people who are, you know, I'm looking at them posthumously,
Yeah.
and doing the research about their, I don't know that I've ever played anyone who's still, that's very interesting though, because I'm sure, yeah, I'm sure it must be like fascinating. I'm trying to think. Now, because I think of like all the research, I did a lot of research when we were doing Priscilla,
Hmm.
um, because there is actually a lot of backstory about Grandma Dodger, but it's, I mean, it didn't end up in the film. A lot of it ended up, you know, because the budget was so cut, a lot of the scenes got cut and stuff. But that I find very interesting. I would love to play someone who was still around, that you could interview them,
Yeah.
although you'd feel such a responsibility to get them right, to get them. And that's why I think with, you know, Timothy Chalamet and Dylan, it's like, and there's other people in the film evidently too,
Oh yeah.
like the lady who plays Joan Baez, and you know, I
She
mean,
did a phenomenal job. They're all
yeah,
great.
see, that is,
Peter Seeger, the actor, actually Edward Norton plays
yeah,
Peter Seeger. He does a great. I mean, he's always
that's
great.
what I heard.
Yeah.
That's what I heard. I'm really looking forward to it. There was I don't know if it's been released in the States, but there was a miniseries called So Long, Marianne, with the
Oh,
two actors, one of the young actor playing Leonard Cohen and the actress playing Marianne, that the song was a brilliant series.
oh,
If it ever, I think it was only released in Canada and
yeah,
maybe in Sweden or somewhere. But if it ever comes along, that one's really worth seeing because again, they capture so much of what you know or have learned about the real people.
yeah.
It's really beautifully done,
I
really
would love to
beautifully
see
done.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm gonna say. Speaking of movies that I cannot find in the U.S., and I looked up, and it said it's not available for streaming. You did a movie with Amanda. I'm thinking pronouncing it right.
Uh,
Seyfried, Seven
yes.
Veils. Where can I
Yeah.
find that?
Here, I can give you news right away.
I love
I
it.
have just heard that it is being released on March the 7th. It's called Seven Veils.
Yes.
And it's based on the story of a young director who Amanda plays, and I play her mom, who is brought in to direct a production of Salome, the opera, which
Mm-hmm.
Adam McGoyan, who is the director of the film, had actually was directing at the Canadian Opera Company at the same time. So he filmed the scenes from the actual opera, and then he wrote this crazy dysfunctional story around the sort of basic story of Salome.
Yeah. When I read about it, I said I can't wait. I already have my night set. I said I'm going to watch this movie. I cannot wait
Yeah.
to watch it for the interview, and I could not find it anywhere. So thank you very much. I'm glad I
Yes.
brought that movie
So
up then.
as of March 7th, it has an open and general release. I have been waiting because I can't even put it on my reel because
Yeah.
it hasn't been released yet. And we did make it a fair while ago, and I'm not sure what delayed its distribution, because it certainly played film festivals everywhere,
Mhm.
and I was able to see it, and I'm very, very proud of that film. I think it's beautiful. I think her performance is stunning,
Yeah.
stunning. She really, oh, blows my mind.
She,
Anyway, and a lot of Canadian actors are in the supporting roles, uh, and Adam McGoyan was an absolute dream to work for as a director, just a dream. So I'm very excited to see what the reaction and response will be to that film when it's finally in wide release.
all right. No, I'm glad. I'm glad because I love Amanda. I think I've seen
Ah,
many of her movies. She's a great actress, and I love the fact that you get to play her mother. And
yeah,
when I read the synopsis, I said, "Oh my God, this is definitely my type of movie." Something that I
yeah,
would.
it
So I'm
was
looking forward to it.
very,
Yeah.
yeah, it was, and what a doll.
All right.
And, you kind of when you meet someone like her, she's just so unassuming and gentle. You cannot even begin to imagine the power that she actually has on screen.
Mm-hmm.
It's incredible in this movie what she's able to do,
Yeah.
because she's got so many different levels to play on. Um, and some of the scenes of her directing the opera are so, and it's so real because they actually shot in the opera house. We were all, they're actually in the opera. The opera is actually happening. They're backstage with it. It was like incredible, um, to see. And that's one of the things that I love about the movie is just the very, very opening panning shot of seeing the actual opera house that exists in Toronto, and the
Mhm.
fact that that's where it was shot is like brilliant. Um, so yeah, March 7th, we'll talk again, and we'll see what you think about Seven Fails. I really thought it was spectacular. I don't know whether he got the kind of response that he wanted, um, because I think it's probably, well, all of Adam McGoyan's films are of a, you have to have a sort of particular taste and sensibility for them, I think.
Yeah.
Even though I think some of them are fabulous, Ararat, and some of them are very strange and peculiar. But somehow I thought with Seven Veils, he kind of brought everything about himself, because he also brought very much of himself as the director of opera as well as the director of film, and being able to meld those two together in terms of his overall, his overall impression of what a family was like who was actually living. And this woman was so engrossed in directing the opera that it seeped into her own life.
Yeah.
For the character that Amanda plays. Really fascinating. Very, very fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's high on the horizon.
All right. Well, I'm definitely looking forward to that. I know we've been talking a little bit over 3 hours. We've talked so long that first there was no sun, then there was lots of sun. Now there's no more sun. That's
Well, it
how-
hasn't gone dark yet, though.
Well, at least it's not shining on your face anymore.
You see, because now at least we're in that phase where it's not dark by 4 o'clock anymore.
Yes,
It's
thank
actually,
God.
yeah, it's actually, we've got daylight savings time is actually just that little squeak away.
Yep.
Anyway, I mean, I should probably go and, figure out what else, because I've had all these things popping up on my screen and going, I'm just ignoring them all because I'm having fun. But I
Exactly.
mean, please, if there's anything else you want to touch upon, if there's, I know I was going to bring up Seven Veils, but you did that so brilliantly. You are very good king of segue. I do love the segue myself, and I like segues in interviews very much, and you're very, very good at it.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no, it flowed. It sort of flowed, and I mean, I don't feel like we've been talking for 3 hours at all.
No, you thought it was 2 hours. So
I thought it was 2 hours, and at first I didn't even know it was that long.
Well, you made it easy.
But obviously you're going to have to edit this because nobody's going to watch 3 hours of us talking without going, "Hey, who are these people? Who do they think they are? My God!" Well, I'm glad they were enjoying themselves.
Exactly. That's what it's all about. You and I are having
I
a good
mean,
time.
I don't really think there's anything that I go glaringly I haven't touched upon. And anyway, maybe we can try and arrange something with Sean, and then I can sneak in on that and say if I've forgotten anything. I'll go, "Oh, Richard, yeah, I forgot to talk about this." But I will go through my files and send you some appropriate stills.
Okay. Thank you very much for that.
And I will send you the little video link. Now I have your email. Of course I have your email. So I'll send you the little video link of my artwork as well, and feel free to use anything from that you want. I mean, anything that I've posted, you're welcome to.
I love it.
I mean, anything that's up, and if there's anything that you still have questions about, just feel free to give me another buzz.
I appreciate that. I had such a great time. It was so much fun. I'm definitely gonna have Sean on the show, and I'll probably have you back again too. You have carte blanche for the show. You can come back anytime you want. We'll just talk about anything we want, because
we're going to be all over trying to raise money for the film version of Slaughter Brothers. So you'll probably, see us kind of, trying to poke our Indiegogo. I mean, we were very concerned that we brought our Indiegogo campaign out around the beginning of the year. And then between the tragedy in New Orleans and the fires and the inauguration and everything, we decided to pause it because we said there's so much going on in people's lives right now that's so much more important, that we don't want them to feel that yes, of course, we want to make a movie and we want to entertain people, but there's so much else going on that takes precedence at this point in people's lives, just to get their lives back together and just try and maintain even the first 5 days of this presidency. I mean, there's just so much that I feel, if they feel their money is needed elsewhere, we totally understand. And we don't want to pressure people for money at a time. Although some people have been very, very generous because they want to see movies made and they want to see this movies made. But we realize the desperate straits that people are, and particularly our friends in the United States, and our friends in Los Angeles, and just it's just been a very, very, very hard year for people. So as much as we pour out whatever we can to you, if eventually you feel like you can send a little bit back our way, we're very, very grateful. And we hope to go into production like in October. So there's still a fair long time, but Indiegogo campaigns run their course and then you have to end them. And, maybe we'll start some other way of fundraising or whatever. But it is still essential when you're trying to independently make a film to try and raise funds from people. And it's always the hard part of filmmaking, because we're creative people. We're not producers. We're not people who are good at asking for money. So anyway, I kind of end on that note that that's where we are at this point in time, but we really do hope to be bringing a really terrific film your way, hopefully by early next year.
Well, I can say that I will definitely be helping you out with this picture, and not just because I want to be a victim in your movie. I'm doing it because I want to see this being made. I am all for that. I love it. I just interviewed a band the other night, and they did one of their albums with a Kickstarter campaign. Because they were, I'll tell you how long this band goes back. Metallica opened up for them in 1983. They were saying, yeah, there were a bunch of young kids asking us how we do it. They're still touring, but now they had issues with labels. They're on a label now, but there was one time they weren't, and they're like, let's do a Kickstarter, and all the fans kicked in money. So all the entertainment you've done for people, all the pleasure you've given people over the years, I think it's time that we could pay you back for help for all the.
Oh well, that's very, very, very sweet. But we're humble and small, and even this tiniest bit, will help me buy another clown nose.
Well, you know what? Yeah, we'll talk off the air. And actually, when I'm going to send you an email from my editor. We talked about that.
Okay.
That will give you, so that's where you can send the pictures and the links.
Okay.
We're definitely going to put the link for that as well, so people can donate to get this movie made.
Oh, that's wonderful.
I want to see it. I'm going to help promote the hell out of it on Facebook myself.
Oh, bless your heart.
So.
It's just, we just love the connections that we have made.
Yep.
Have really influenced our careers in certainly the last 5 to 7 years. The connections we've made through the horror community have been incredible. Mm-hmm. And the thing that we want to make sure the horror community knows is that Slaughter Brothers Dime Circus is right up your alley.
Oh yeah.
It is going to be your kind of film, because where we live and what universe we come from.
Yes.
So it definitely will, I think, engender a lot of interest from the horror community.
Yep. Well, you definitely have a couple of my bucks.
Okay,
I'll be sending some down to you. And before we go, one more time, if you're watching Leslie Donaldson, thank you very much for telling me about Lynn. I am so glad. I had the best time interviewing you. Can't wait to have you back. Can't wait to have Sean on the show. And we're going to be in touch. We'll be talking soon.
Great. Thank you, Richard. It's been a pleasure.
The pleasure was all mine. Thank you very much. That wraps up the latest episode of The Claws Corner. A huge thanks goes out to actress Lynne Griffin for taking time out of her extremely busy schedule to be a guest on my show. Thank you very much. Another huge thanks goes out to editor extraordinaire John Bristol of the award-winning Elmwood Productions for always doing a superb job editing this show each and every week and making it available to all on YouTube. I am also extremely grateful to Rob Bull and Joseph Timothy Quirk for all they do to make my show available on several Connecticut radio stations, as well as Spotify, iTunes, Amazon Music, Audible, and iHeartRadio. I also need to thank Al Coles for airing this show on his local cable station to help me expand my audience. And lastly, but definitely not least, I need to thank you, the viewer, for always tuning in. Enjoy your day, everyone.
Amazon and Barnes & Noble.